Freaking out, man. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
What do all men in power want? More power.
My name is luca-zanna. I was an Italian by birth, and I became an American by choice. Our lives and freedoms are in danger. This is not a dream. If you're listening to this broadcasting, you are the resistance.
All systems go.
Welcome to Love, Guns, and Freedom.
We're not afraid.
Then you can keep your plan if you are satisfied with it. If you like the plan you have, you can keep it.
I intend to keep this promise. If you like your health care plan, you'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you like your plan and your doctor, you can keep them.
You'll be able to keep your health care plan.
If you like your plan, you keep your plan.
If you like your doctor, you like your plan, you can keep your doctor. You can keep your plan.
You like your current insurance, you keep that insurance.
Obama, you're a filthy communist liar rat.
Here we go, guys. This is luca-zanna. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom on KTOX 1340 AM and all United States, the FM network. Another Sunday, another show. I was almost going to say another nightmare. I don't look at this like a nightmare because I always try to find something positive, even when I have to deal and, immerse myself and share with you very bad news. Unfortunately, reality is not good, Sometimes people say, how do you define when somebody is a slave? Well, there are different ways. People think sometimes, slavery, you imagine the idea with somebody with a chain around your neck, like in the ancient times. Yeah, probably that's the most familiar version. But I would consider to be a slave when, first of all, somebody else is going to force you to do something or buy something against your will. Especially when there is not any type of justification. It's not like I'm doing something to protect somebody else or because I'm infringing on somebody else's rights. Like, for example, I always say the helmet, or the seatbelt. After all, it's my body. I understand the seatbelt can be an important tool to protect my health. But since I'm not infringing other people's rights, why should I be forced to do that? Unfortunately, we went far from just the seatbelt. Now in the new America, ending with the K, under that Marxist piece of garbage of Mr. Obama, I refuse to call him president, and this is just myself speaking, of course, nobody else and not my guest. It's me, luca-zanna, the only responsible. This piece of filth, but not just him, it's just a puppet, we know that. Pretty much Congress and all the insiders behind. But anyway, the point is the people, more important, they supported this utopistic nightmare. Finally, and I've been sarcastic here, created in America the new form of slavery, where the government has the authority, the legal authority. Remember that slavery was legal in the history of this time, so don't think just because it's a law means it's good. The legal authority to force you to buy a product overpriced, jacked up completely with prices that make no sense in a free market economy, and not only they give you an inferior product with more, you have to pay, but also, if you're not able to afford it, they're going to fine you and unleash the guns of the IRS after you. This is the Obamakare. So now, time passed, and many of us already living through the nightmare. And I don't want to forget this. I don't want that this becomes some sort of just another day, and now we get used to it and we become cynical about it. No. I want to refresh in everybody's mind, us and more important, you. If you voted for Obamacare, if you voted for, especially for these people in power, that they think they can be our lords and, forcing us to do such a humiliating for a free human being act of tyranny, to manipulate prices, to force us to buy something. By the way, this new Obamacare, it didn't really benefit any one of us. Few of you maybe, got some sort of, freebie or little better, fees, because after all, somebody else is going to pay for it. But the reality is, all you did help and you finance the cartel of the health insurance companies. That's what it is. It's called fascism, the union between corporations and government, as Mussolini said. So now I'm trying to keep myself calm because I'm pretty emotional when it comes to this, but I wanted to share with you a guest. And why? I want to share with you this. Maybe there is still hope to learn that this reality of, you can keep your health insurance plan and you can somehow have a better deal. And all this bunch of lies that these politicians, starting from Obama, told us, they were just lies. And maybe there is still some hope for some of you, useful idiots who voted for Obama and still support it, maybe to wake up. I want to be kind of an open mind. So now today I have with me this gentleman. He's a guy, he's a family man from Indiana. He has a family, it's a beautiful family. And guess what? He's going to share with you his nightmare story. So we can maybe catch up a little bit and see that this virus, this deadly virus called Obamacare, already spread around the 50 states. His name is Ben Miller from Indiana. Ben, are you there?
I am here, yes.
Okay, I hope I was clear. I was calm enough to make my point straight. After all, I have an accent. And I found you on the Facebook, and I read the IRS letter that pretty much says almost all. But I would like, before we start, and we go into your nightmare with this Obamacare, you tell us a little bit about yourself, like your family, your life, what you do. I don't know anything about you. I would like to know more about your humanity. Who are you? Who is Ben Miller there in Indiana? Where are you from exactly?
Well, I'm all the way to the north and, by South Bend, Notre Dame University, so I'm a Notre Dame fan. I'm just, I grew up Amish, so that is one interesting fact. I had 8 years of education, and we were learned to work very hard to get out there and, plow the fields and do a lot of physical hard labor. And it's just, a little, I guess, and about 5 years ago, me and my wife decided to join another church, and very much family men, family oriented. That's where I live. Kind of my general background of up to this point or to a certain point. But yeah.
A question, Ben. Do you have you work for somebody or you have your own little business? Exactly. What do you do?
I do have my own business. I'm self-employed.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So you got your lady, your wife, and you got beautiful kids, I saw. How many kids do you have?
I have 5 children.
Wow. That's a lot of responsibilities also. It's a big, I tell you, one is enough, but when you got 5 to feed, that's a big commitment. I really commend you for that. That's great. Now, your life, you're a young couple. I read that you used to have an health insurance plan, at least some sort of a basic plan, I guess. How much you used to pay before Obamacare happened, this nightmare called Obamacare happened? How much you used to pay for your package, family package?
I was paying $398 a month, and I thought, wow, this is expensive enough. It's like to pay out $4,000 a year is like, okay, that's good, but so that's how much I used to pay.
Wow. So that was, honestly, as much it was a lot for a big family like yours. That was a good deal. I mean, seriously.
It was a good deal. I had a $11,000 deductible.
Wow, that's a
so
lot.
I had to pay the first $11,000 of it. So
okay. Still manageable. I mean, after all, if you think you have to put, a family of 7, 5 children plus you and your wife, that was pretty okay, manageable. I mean, nothing is free, of course, but at least you could do it.
Right.
And you were able to pay your own dues, to take care of that, correct?
Absolutely.
Perfect. So what happened then? The great Obamacare, the new salvation for humanity, more important for the American slaves. What exactly gave you as a benefit from $398 a month? What was your new due bill?
Well, it was just really crazy. I remember the day, they announced that Obamacare went through, and I remember exactly where I was standing, and it just went through me. I was like, okay, and you heard all these stories of what they might do, but it was a couple years away, and so I was paying this, and I sent in my monthly payment in January of 2014, and I got a notice saying, hey, you didn't pay your dues, you didn't pay your premium. And I said, well, I called them up and said, I did pay my premium.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, oh, no, your premium has changed. And I said, well, like, how much did it change? They said, well, it's over $1,400. It's right around $1,400 right now.
Wow.
For the exact same plan you had. It's
one second.
$1,000.
I need to be good. Sometimes we say numbers like they are just, monopoly money, and probably they are, because for the bank, Federal Reserve is a monopoly. But for us, we have to work for this money. So I want to be sure that every listener out there, especially, I'm trying to be nice, okay? I'm trying to control my instinct, because I would like to scream and yell and cuss like you have no idea, because I know that you don't cuss. I don't cuss normally either, I tell you. But when they are stealing us, they are raping the future of our children and our own future, and endangering our lives. Somebody's literally tried to kill us. I'm sorry. I'm really serious about this, because when you remove my health plan and I cannot afford it anymore, you can pretty much damage my life, my health, my security. So if somebody's trying to harm me, I'm not saying that I'm advocating for violence, but the best thing I can do for you, scum, I could start to cuss at you. But I don't want to do this now for your respect and, more important, for the station. So now let me remind everybody, I want everybody listen, especially for the people out there that now you're driving your stupid car with your stupid bumper sticker, I support Obama or Hillary or everybody else who's supporting this plan or socialize destruction of the health insurance plans. You should be very ashamed yourself. When you go back at home tonight, you go to the mirror, look at yourself in the mirror, and spit on that mirror at least 3 times. Because I said, look what have you done to us. Look what have you done to us. You think that you get some free stuff for yourself? You destroy millions of people's life. So from $398 a month, now we have a typical average family. I mean, you work for a living, right? I mean, you weren't born into oil, or you are not related to Donald Trump or anybody else. You are a working guy, right?
Absolutely.
So, and
lots of hours.
And I tell you, I don't know your situation, but to take care of 5 children, I think your wife she's at home with them, correct?
Yes, she helps me in our business, but
but still, you're
she's a hardworking lady, and but she's at home most of the time.
Okay, where is the justice here, you loser listening to the show, that you voted for this plan? Where is the quality? I mean, you destroy millions of people like Ben, life, security, and also safety. Now, look at this, and now from $400 we go to $1,400 a month. This is out of control. How can somebody afford to spend just for insurance during the year an increase or at least an extra $12,000 a year? I mean, that's a car payment and a house payment included. I mean, seriously. So I don't know. So what did you do after you received this terrible news of this increase? What did you choose to do? Did you pay or you didn't pay?
You know what? I got the notice. And I was one of my employees was I was in the car, and I showed him. I said, I cannot believe. I just got all like, this is crazy. Because I got the notice, that it was such high rent, and I was like, well, I shopped around the shop. I just said, I do not, I can't justify paying like $18,000 just in. Jesus. $16,000 in health insurance. I was like, I work too hard for my money. It's just, so I was just really, kind of upset, so I just left it.
Yeah, and you have to eat. You cannot just put all your money for the health insurance. You also have to feed your children, maybe give them some clothing once in a while. I mean, this is insane. This is the budget for a family, okay? Wow. So you didn't pay. I mean, you couldn't pay probably, correct? I mean,
the health insurance? You know what? I could have paid, but I care more about my money than I was like, I can't, justify. I work hard for my money. I guess I'm very frugal. It just bothered me to pay $16,000 a year for health insurance.
That's insane. I don't care if I was, pouring into gold, especially when I know that just 1 year before, I was paying less than $400 for the whole family, and now because the government say so, and of course the health insurance loving it, you have to increase and jack up their price like what? Like 500, 3,000%? I mean, this is insane, okay? Seriously, I mean, 300% is out of control. So the point is, I understand. Now, the sad thing is that not only, of course, the new plan was unaffordable, talking about the Affordable Care Act, also Obamacare, but the point is, since you could not afford it, or you decided there was not a good economic decision, because you don't want to go out of business, you may be able to pay for 1 year, then you don't have any more. Maybe I'll tell you, I mean, the type of money is not just something, okay, a little extra. You start in a family budget, that type of money is going to decide if you can just eat twice a day or once a day during your day. I mean, that's a lot of money, okay? So you got a letter from our friends, the enforcers of the dictatorship here, the IRS, correct? What did they say, this letter? What did they want from you?
It was, it said, because you didn't have insurance in 2014, here is your unpaid shared responsibility.
Shared responsibility. I love the word. Keep going, please.
And it was like $2,348 fine for not having any insurance because I chose not to pay $16,000 a year.
Wow.
I was really upset that night.
Wow. No, this made me upset. And I don't have 5 children like you, and I didn't have yet this letter. So, and it's just, I feel sorry. I feel sorry for the future of this country. You know, I don't know if you know about me. I wasn't born here. I came from Italy about 18 years ago. And I knew things that weren't perfect, and I tell you, but the last 8 years, my God, I feel like I'm living in a nightmare, seriously, okay? And they're getting worse and worse, okay? And it's sad in my heart, because I had a chance to smell for a moment what this country used to be. And don't get me wrong, Bush wasn't my hero, okay? And the Republican Party, they are not my heroes. But compared to where we degraded the last 6-7 years with this new regime, I feel like I'm living on some sort of a 1984 nightmare movie, seriously. I mean, it's a new level. Everything increased to a new level. I mean, the point is simple, guys, listeners. The point here we have, for the first time of American history, a government can force you to buy a product or a service against your will. And there is no even anymore the justification that this product is going to be better for you or more affordable. Okay? This is completely, they force you, like the mafia. You got to do business with him and with him wholly. Okay? And at that point, they know that this place is going to jack up the prices, because that's normally what they do. When they have a controlled monopoly of the market, they can do the prices they want. And that's where we are. This is a legalized mafia, but I'm not even blaming it. I mean, I have more respect for the mafia. At least you can shoot back at them, okay? But the point is, the government now, this is not even their problem. The problem is that I really feel sorry for the American people. They still believe, with their stupidity, with their arrogance, with their liberal fascism attitude, you are the cause of this nightmare. Because Obama and all these congressmen, you know, out there, that they are working anyway for the big corporations like this health insurance company, they could never have done this unless you useful idiots, and I hope you're listening to the show, some of you I know you do, you should really feel ashamed for yourself. Because tonight when you go back home, think about Ben Miller in Indiana, that he had a decent life with his family, was minding his business, and he was able to afford insurance for his kids and his wife. Now, not only cannot afford this astronomical price, now also has to face the IRS, and more important, or at least as important, you are without insurance right now, correct, Ben?
I did find some other insurance that I picked up just because I did not want my family to...
But it's not exactly the
not have insurance.
Yeah, but that's not exactly like the promise that we've been told. You can keep the doctor you want or the situation you had, because the plan, I'm sure, is different, I guess, because if you want to afford the new plans, probably everything is different. And I don't know about you, the doctor, but I heard many, many stories that the doctors, they all changed. What happened to you with your doctor? You were able to keep your doctor at least?
No, we didn't really have a family doctor. We just needed to get. I just wanted insurance because with 5 children, something's going to happen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I understand, like a catastrophic plan. Myself, honestly, I don't believe in doctors. You know, I mean, I don't need an aspirin, okay? I can buy the aspirin myself. If I have a serious problem, like I break a leg, or I get in a car accident, somebody shoot me in the back, that's where I need a doctor, okay? That's the only reason really I need a doctor. I believe more in alternative medicine. I agree with that. But the problem, yes, you know, still, even with the catastrophic plan, I mean, things are changed. Now, are you going to pay this IRS fine, this $2,400, because you are not being able to share the responsibility with this communist regime?
You know what? I already paid it.
Okay.
I paid it before I even posted it on Facebook.
Okay.
I wrote it out, and I was like, because I guess for me to fight the IRS, I've got letters from them. I get letters from them, just saying, hey, you owe this, you owe that, you owe this, and it's like, how do you go after this? I don't know. Yeah,
no, I understand. No, listen, it's like, they know it. They pick and choose their praise. Normally, the big guys, the big corporations, whatever, they don't even pay taxes. I mean, GE was like $50 billion a couple of years ago, tax-free, okay, supposed to pay, they didn't pay. But the small little guy, they go after us like, a pack of coyotes after the lamb, because they want to set an example. They want to remind, don't you dare to challenge the authority of the mafia. That's my personal opinion. I'm not speaking for you. I'm speaking for myself. In case you bastards are listening, you know what I mean. So anyway, that's the bottom line. Listen, I pray for you. I pray for your family. I pray for every family, honestly, out there. I pray for myself, too, because we're all in the same page. The only people that I should pray also for the enemies. I should. I'm not here to try to preach. I'm not here to, this show is not about religion, but I feel sorry for you bastards out there that you still support this travesty. This legalized tyranny. I feel sorry. I hope one day you will understand what you've done to us. I really do. And maybe you repent. Maybe you try to do something to wake up your fellow Americans that will still believe in this utopistic nightmare called stealing legally with the coercion of the government from others to get, whatever you can profit from others' people's work. This is so wrong. And more important now, you don't even get anything. All this goes to corporations. What do you think about this Obamacare, in your opinion? Was really for the people, or maybe was for some other purpose, like to benefit these healthcare companies? What is your opinion?
My opinion?
Yes, just your opinion.
Oh, it was definitely not for the people. It was not, it was just another part of socialism, of, taking it from the people that work hard and give it to somebody else. Just this. That's what I believe it was for, and it wasn't to benefit, because everybody that works is going to get this tax.
Yeah.
It's not. It's not even really. It's not even taxing the wealthy. It's taxing the working people.
Yes, you're a working guy, like many of us. That's the bottom line. But that's where they want to really sink their teeth in. That's the bottom line. Now, I want to be fair, because I want to be sure that this is not just about Democrats, bashing Democrats. Republicans, 90% of them, they're as well responsible, okay? They had the Congress, they had the Senate the last few years, they had the chance to repeal it, and, Speaker of the House, that fraud, Mr. Bonner, okay? I call him Bonner. He is the insult to intelligence of the American people that they are still voting Republicans, okay? And, guys, probably, I know, maybe if you're still into the party, good for you. Maybe you can change it. I don't know. I couldn't put up anymore, because I realized really that both parties, they are corrupted to the bones, and that's why this travesty could go through, because of both parties. Remember, Congress passed that, and more important, Congress could have repealed it. I don't care, Obama, he could somehow, say, no, I don't want that, repealing, but veto it. But the point, Congress, it should have done it. We had the numbers the last couple of years, and that's proved the point. The American people, they've been sold out by both Congress, Senate, and of course the President, not even a point. So we gotta start to do something. What is your solution? I'm trying to find solutions here. I cannot believe, I'm not gonna put my head down and say, okay, I'm going to resign to live like a slave the rest of my life, especially for our children. What are we gonna do to stop this? Because I don't want your children grow up in a new America where we are forced to be slave, buying overpriced insurance without our will. What can we do, in your opinion?
You know what? I would say, just my opinion, I would say, tax where, put a tax where all the people pay, and not just the people that are working, but maybe like the people that also get the welfare benefits. So they're paying taxes, on their food, and take away some of the income tax. And I don't know. I guess I'm just, as far as a solution, and create more jobs. Let the working man or let business keep some more of their money so they can invest more and create more jobs, because I do believe that's where we as a nation are going to have to go. We have to have jobs, and they always say about creating jobs, so let the people that are making jobs keep their money so they can create more jobs.
Unfortunately, I really believe there is not like an act of stupidity. These people are not stupid. Yes, some of them, they may well be stupid, but they are not, they try to look like they're doing things, didn't work out, sorry. I really believe they have a hidden agenda that is not so hidden anymore. It's an evil agenda to completely destroy the country. Now the new budget is going to be about $20 trillion. We're going to be $20 trillion in debt, okay? The last few years, we went from 16, 17, 18, every year, another $1 trillion. This is nothing by accident. At this point, if we can put, I don't know, how old your oldest son, your youngest son, how old is he? 5, 6, how old is he?
My youngest son is 10 months old.
Okay,
and
maybe
my oldest son is 15.
15. Okay, let's put like a settle for the middle one. Okay, let's say you get a 6 years old little baby, okay, in that range bracket, and you can put them in charge of our government. I'm sure you would have more common sense to understand, how much money you can spend, okay? After you get a little bit of basic understanding of mathematics. The point, these people, they are not stupid. They are completely trying to rack our credit cards to the bottom, to destroy every type of resemblance of America, and destroy us not just morally. They've already done that many ways, and I'm not going to go here in this type of the show. We'll talk another time. But economically in this time, putting us in a complete sense of servitude towards international lenders like China, of course, and also Japan, but more important towards this bank, this private bank called the Federal Reserve. I don't know if you're familiar. If you know the Federal Reserve, the only thing that is federal is the federal name. It's like federal as Federal Express, okay? That in 1913 was created, and that point, instead of, every time we need a dollar as America, the Treasury, this country, every time it needs a dollar, it doesn't need anymore to print its own dollar like we used to do. Now we have to go to this private cartel of banks called the Federal Reserve. They've been given this special magic power to create currency out of thin air with no backing, no gold, no silver anymore. So they can, it's like a computer game. You don't even print anymore. It's all digital. And every time they loan us $1 or $1 trillion, we are forced to pay the interest. And we pay with the income tax, and that's real collateral. That's real work that we're paying back. So I hope the American people really understand this concept. I don't care if you're Republican, I don't care if you're Democrat, I don't care if you don't care about anything about parties. But this is so important. It's about what's going on now with our country. Listen, I was doing business right now for you. First of all, what is your business? What do you sell exactly? I forgot.
Well, you know what? I'm just going to leave that off the air.
Okay.
But we have our own company and stuff, but you can probably find it on Facebook or whatever.
No problem. You're doing okay? Hopefully you're doing okay.
It's very well. Yep. It's doing very well. It's food, but yeah.
Okay. Listen, I pray really for you that your family is going to find some safety and go through these times. And, I don't know about the solution about this. The only solution, I hope we can fix this problem, like starting from Obamacare. Every one of us as Americans, we start to respect each other. That's the bottom line. And nobody should take advantage of somebody else. I believe in charity, but I do not believe in government coercion. That's the bottom line. And I hope,
absolutely.
And then I hope really that people start to stop this game, being part of that team or this team, the Republican team or the Democrat team. These are just created to divide us as Americans. We need to stop, and we need to denounce evil, no matter if they were a donkey or if they were an elephant. We should say evil is evil. If Hillary is evil, we denounce it. If Obama is evil, we denounce it. If Bush is evil, we denounce it. We stop playing this party's game. That's all I think we can hope to stop this cycle of corruption. I want to give you, as I normally do to all my guests, 2 minutes. You can say whatever you want before I let you go. Go ahead, Ben.
All right. Well, hey, I just, you know what? It takes a lot of hard work to get ahead in, nowadays, and you have to. And I own quite a large company, and it just gets harder and harder every day to go through the red tape, and every time you turn around, there's another piece of paper you have to fill out. So I don't know. I just hope and pray that we can turn this thing around. But yeah, I just I don't know what to say. It's been a pleasure to be on the air and just get to know that there's other people out there that feel the same way and
all right.
So yeah.
Thank you. Okay, guys, don't go away. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna, and more news, more information, and more ammunition for your brain to take our rights back. Don't go away.
He's a songwriter, a poet, a rifleman.
I'm not afraid.
And a constitutional activist.
I'm not afraid.
Italian by birth.
I'm not afraid.
American by choice. Gianluca Zanna.
I'm not afraid.
And his new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom. 16 powerful songs on one CD from the heart of a patriot. For download or to order the CD, go to www.lovegunsfreedom.com. That's www.lovegunsfreedom.com. Lyrics for your mind, music for your heart. Gianluca Zanna's new CD, Love, Guns, and Freedom.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom. We look at Zanna. This is the first hour, okay? The hour about freedom. And, of course, we had this incredible conversation with this victim. I call him a victim. He's an American victim of Obamacare. This guy that is family man. He has to pay from $400 all the way to $1,400 a month just because somebody said so. But that's another story. Now we go back to the topic of the show. The show, it's about everything. Anything about individual freedoms. Anything about freedom of speech. And that's why I really love if somebody has a little bit of debate or, let's say, disagreement, or even just something maybe we don't understand each other. Because after all, I got an accent. And when I write, I got an accent too. Maybe my English may be not that great. So I really would like to engage people here in the arena of the ideas on the air. And there are not filters. The only filter we have, we got to comply with the FCC. That's it. But I really like to talk. In the past, I've been talking a lot about weather modification. This is not a conspiracy. It's a fact. I also had the honor to have with me last year Arizona Representative Sonny Borrelli, that I really was proud of him to be on the air and was the only one at the time to be on the air and take 2 hours just to learn, or try to learn from one of the experts in the weather modification problem, Mrs. Rosalind Peterson. Now, I've been saying, this is election time, and I think it's important, our duty as constituents, to engage our elected people, to ask him questions and demand answers. With Sonny Borrelli, or Representative Borrelli, as much as I like him as a person, I tell you, I'm pretty disappointed the fact that in 2 years he never came back with any official answer. When he was very excited. I got some off-the-record answer, but I'm not going to tell you because off-the-records I respect their privacy. But I would like to have him back on the air to bring his results of his investigation about weather modification. And then, of course, Arizona State Senator Kelly Ward, she attempted to do something, but unfortunately her opinion was that she does not believe in chemtrails. That's fine. And I don't know why. I don't know. The point is just because she's afraid to be mockery, or maybe just because, I don't know. I will try to ask her. I want her on the show. I would love to have her here. And, of course, I'm trying to engage with this conversation any other person, man or woman, who's running for office. And that's the bottom line. Everybody's welcome here. Now, I have somebody that he lives in Lake Havasu, and also is my Facebook friend, and we have a little bit of a conversation going on Facebook. And I really would like to ask him exactly on the air what is the problem that, what I'm doing wrong on Facebook, whatever he thinks. I don't care. He can ask me whatever he wants. His name is Ben Sivertson from Lake Havasu, Arizona. Hi, Ben.
Hey, how you doing?
Pretty good, man.
Well,
nice to meet you. Nice to talk to you in real world. I hate to type, by the way. I'm a very bad typer. Please.
First, a little bit about me, I guess, for your listeners. I'm what they would be considered I'm an escapee from socialism. I came from California, about a year and a half ago. Moved here to Lake Havasu City, and obviously I came here because of the lower taxes and just the conservative base here. I felt where I came from up in Northern California, I really didn't have a voice up there, and because of the majority of people there vote in a more liberal way, and and that probably 80% of the population of where the town I came from, which is the city of Clear Lake, is Democrat. So. So yes, I kind of felt I was in one of those situations where I wanted to go somewhere where it was beautiful and sunny and nice, and also be politically involved and have a voice.
Good. I'm with you, because I tell you, before I left Italy, I escaped Italy to come to America. It took me not that long to understand that California was pretty much close to Italy. And I ran and escaped, there was the movie Escape from Los Angeles, Escape from LA, or Escape from New York. I did escape California too about 10 years ago. So I understand the feeling, and I think we are on the same page there. I despise any type of coercion by the collectivist towards the individual. Legalized theft is still theft. I don't care how you split it. Now, let's talk about whatever you want, of course. If you have questions for me, fine. If you want to continue the conversation about we were having on Facebook, fine. You got the floor. I want to give you the floor, whatever you want to say or ask me.
Awesome. And again, I just want to reiterate, this is just, I want to quote one of my favorite radio host, Michael Savage. This is just one man's opinion here, so
of course,
I don't want to sit there and try to your listeners to think I'm trying to impose an opinion or anything, but just to kind of get an idea where I come from and who I listen to and where I get my information from. I guess that would be one of many. But when I was up in Northern California, the interesting thing that Luca and I were discussing on Facebook earlier was the geoengineering topic. And first, for the record, I want to say that I don't deny it. It's one of those situations where I had no clue about it until I actually came to Northwest Arizona. And because you would think, being up in Northern California, I've lived in Marin County, Sonoma County, Lake County, which is, predominantly liberal areas. I think that would be an issue that people were discussing. But what's funny is that I never even heard of it before when I was up there until I came down here. So I found it quite interesting. And one of the things that I did in my research so far is because I've been researching global warming for many years.
Okay.
And I've noticed too that some of the people on the geoengineering website are kind of linking the geoengineering with the global warming.
In which way? Just to be clear, first of all, do you believe in global warming?
No, I do not.
Good, because I believe it's a fraud myself, just to be clear, okay? I mean, wait a second. They are modifying the weather, and the reason what happened here, these programs, like weather modification, is having a big influence on the weather. But I believe they are cooking the numbers, because at the end, what these bastards want, they want to create a carbon tax, a global carbon tax under the United Nations. They need to create a crisis, then give us the solution. like at the time of the popes, you know, during the 1600s, hey, if you pay your tax to the church, you're going to heaven. Here now, if you're going to start to pay your tax, you're going to save the planet. This is exactly the type of enslavement that they want for us. So I believe that if there is a change of weather, they are creating it by design with these programs. And we know enough evidence, you know, like the numbers at the United Nations, they've been caught, they've been lying. All they want is our freaking control over us. So that's the point. So we agree on that. I'm glad we're talking because sometimes, you know, it's easy to be mistaken from something else. And by the way, when you call people liberals, I call them liberal fascists. Because, you know, for me, liberal something means that you believe in liberty. These people instead, they believe in bossing you around, using your money against your will, and tell you how to live your life. That's the problem we have with them. So, good with that. Now, please, we understand that, at least from our personal experience, global warming is a fraud, and I'm very proud to say that out loud. And I refuse to pay any carbon tax just because some politician's going to make me feel fuzzy about it. Now, what do you think about this weather modification? Did you have enough evidence to see that this weather modification is real, according to the just documents I brought up?
According to your documents, yeah. I mean, it would state, you know, they state that. But one thing I have known, and let me just say that being in the military for 20 years, there are things that are. Let's put it this way: if something gets leaked, let's just say, for example, if something got leaked that was classified material, or if something was put out to the public that wasn't supposed to be put out, you know, and the government doesn't want us to know about. It's an old CIA tactic that they've been using for many years. What they do then is they flood the public with information that's false to discredit the truth.
Oh, I understand. False information is a contra-interpro. I mean, they do that. You know, they try to put out false information. I agree, it happens. There is now, though, enough evidence that we know that this stuff is real. I mean, this is not just some documents out of that. There are 40 years time period, and I just brought up a very limited part of the documents. I mean, you can find from different agencies, from the military, from the Air Force, from the Department of EPA, from the Department, or even private companies. I mean, you can go to the State of Arizona website, official website, and when people start to deny that weather modification is a conspiracy, I laugh, but I'm sad because you can, everybody can go there and say, well, look, for $100, and I posted the link, by the way, there is still the link, PDF file from the official State of Arizona, our state, that we pay for it for the website. You can download the application, and with $100, any person, any individual or private corporation can apply for a permit to operate weather modification operations in your area. So that's a fact. That's a fact. Now, we can go further and say why they're doing it, what are the dangers. Fine, we can have differences to find out the final results, but we need to start to say the sky is supposed to be blue and, you know, the water is supposed to be wet. Let's start with this basic logic conclusion. The evidence is there. So when I have a politician that denies, outcry that, no, weather modification, I don't believe in weather modification. According to the newspaper magazine, newspaper article out of their voice, I have a little problem because that's almost an insult to intelligence. But now specifically what I was trying to do is this. There are different politicians out there that they're still in office, like, you know, Rep. Sonny Borrelli, Senator Kelly Ward. These are the people that, for me, they're accountable to us. They're elected. They're still in office, okay? And I think we demand is part of to keep this republic strong with the principles that we, the people, are the final authority. We have the right to demand questions politely, but we have that right. So all I'm trying to say now, I would like to ask, especially to Mr. Borrelli, that I think is a great guy in many views, but on this topic, he failed us. 2 years ago, I sent you the link with the interview that we had with him, and this expert, world-renowned expert, called Mrs. Rosalind Peterson, okay? That she's been also testifying in front of the United Nations about weather modification and the evidence and the programs. Sonny Borrelli was very, very good. I tell you, he was there, he was listening. He was also, if you listen to the interview, you will find out he was also talking about the dangers in the past, you know, that unfortunately, the government has been lying to people. Think about Agent Orange. I mean, you were a Marine, so you know this stuff. I mean, let me, I
don't want to interrupt you or anything.
No, go ahead, please, go ahead.
What I want to say is this is the problem, and I'm not saying, you know, I'm not denying in any way, but I'm saying is when we have people in the United Nations saying global warming is real.
Listen, I don't like
you
that.
and I know it's not.
I am, you know,
right?
If you know me a little better, you should, when you got little research about me, I am one of the worst enemy against global government and against the United Nations. So, you know where we stand.
Then we have somebody in the United Nations also who is saying that geoengineering is real.
But this point is not, by the way, the United Nations, they are behind this too. The United Nations, they are behind this. You will see that there is enough evidence that they are implementing these programs at global level because they think this is the excuse.
That's all I'm saying is within the geoengineering, the people that are trying to get it exposed and get it out there and for people to see are being discredited by the sources themselves. And then I mean by the United Nations, because the United Nations has a major problem, as you know. They're obviously, their intentions aren't good. They obviously have a global agenda, and as we all both know, and you know, it's just, to me, it's just a big, huge money pit that needs to be.
I understand.
The billing itself needs to be, leveled flat.
I understand. And this is, it's important because I tell you, we talk on the show always about the dangers of globalism, of this global government and the United Nations. But now my focus is specifically to try to keep it our elected officials, even if they're state or local, okay? They still have a mouth. And I think they have the moral duty. Even if they cannot change things, because, they're going to come back at us, hey, okay, this is in the sky, this is the FAA, this is federal, fine. Still, you are our voice. Even that this is just stop in Phoenix, you are our highest voice that we have in the state. So I think it's very important. Like, for example, we had a great state senator. You should take a look at her. I mean, now she's retired. Her name is Karen Johnson, okay? State of Arizona, senator, okay? She was the only one on the record talking about the danger of weather modification. And I tell you, I understand what can happen. They're trying to make you, when you start to be on, when you are on an airplane, you are a bomber, and you start to drop bombs at the right place, you're going to get, they're going to shoot it back at you, okay? Because you are on target. And guess what? It's part of the territory. I'm sorry, sometimes things are going to be a little rough out there. That's why we elect you. That's why we elect you, Sonny Borrelli. That's why we elect you, Kelly Ward. That's why we elect any one of you to speak for us, especially when
And I got your point. I really do. And I think we need to be telling Jennifer Jones the same thing.
Yes.
And also Ron Gold the same thing, because maybe that mistake was made with Ward and with Borrelli, that they weren't put to that. They weren't asked those questions prior to them being elected to where they're at now. Or
let me show you something.
And so I think it's important not just to put the incumbents under the microscope, but we need to.
I agree with you.
We need to put the the future ones too, the ones that are trying to, be elected as public servants. So,
Ben,
that's all.
I completely agree with you, because my job is, here, I mean, I'm not partying for anybody. I'm not cheering for anybody. That much that I used to be a Republican, I became an independent intentionally, because I want to be here just sticking with the facts, okay? I'm not saying I endorse anybody or anybody's my friend. Nobody's friend here is public business. All I care that we try to give everybody the chance to be on record and to follow what they're doing. Now, talking about former Senator Gould, he was, I don't know if you watched my little short video about the barium in our blood. We did a little short documentary, almost 10 minutes. I talked to him in person. We gave him official information, like him and all the other elected officials at the time, with the blood test. They proved that 90% of the test sample of our population coming back with barium levels in our blood, like over 1,000% what we're supposed to have. And this is according to a medical doctor, not just me playing doctor. So Senator Gould, he wasn't never been left alone on this matter. Trust me, I give him all the attention I could. Right now, though, he's not our senator. He's running again. And, of course, I invited him, and I really want him back on the show. I would love that he's back. I'm very respectful, but I'm not going to be shy to ask him, what do you think about that? Like, I'm not going to be shy, with anybody running for office, even if they don't know. Because many people may say, I don't know. Fine. That's why we gave to Sonny Borrelli 2 hours, no 2 hours, with a package full of information, documents, to do a research. I didn't just say, come here, I demand that you know everything. No, I'm here to try to learn from each other. And I know that Representative Borrelli knew already a lot, because the guy, you spent 20 years in the military, you know a lot of things that probably civilians have no idea. That's the bottom line. So he has an open mind about this. Now, the point is, there is no more excuse. After your ignorance is being fulfilled, it means that we fill the gap. We need at least to have an answer. That's all I'm asking. So Jennifer Jones, she's running for office. She will be welcome to be here. We have a conversation with her on the record, fine. And so anybody else. But meanwhile, for me, Representative Borrelli, I voted for him. Senator, Kelly Ward, I voted for her. These are the people that represent me in office so far. The moment that they're gone, I will talk to the new one too. But everybody's welcome here. I don't have any type of access to grind against anybody. I will give them the same question to any one of them. That's pretty much my point. What do you think? Am I too crazy about it?
No. Actually, I love your passion. Actually, it's pretty amazing, and I wish there would be more people here in the state that had your passion. First of all, so
thank you, Ben. I appreciate it.
That's important. But we're very fortunate, though, because of Arizona. The majority of voters are conservative. I don't say Republican. I say conservative because, like you're probably in a conservative mindset, but yet you don't claim yourself as being a Republican. So, and I know we have a lot of people here that tend to lean towards the conservative side more than the liberal side.
Yeah, for me, the point, the point for me at this point, when I joined this country, I came intentionally here with a plan. I wasn't born here. I took an allegiance to the Republic and to the Constitution Bill of Rights, not to a party, okay? When I start to see that the party, unfortunately, it's an instrument to control us and tell us what we can do or cannot do, I say, wait, screw you. I took an allegiance to not to defend the Republic and the Constitution, not a party. So when the party starts to go out of control, see ya. I'm going to be here sticking to the facts and my beliefs. That's pretty much why I'm here. So that's the point. I agree with you. We need to stick. And don't get me wrong, I love Arizona, okay? I think we have a lot of great potential here that I couldn't find anywhere around the world. But it's our duty as citizens to be informed and to keep this government on track, because that's exactly what happened in California, in my opinion. People got too busy minding about, surfing and doing great things. Life is beautiful. And then you wake up 20 years later and you are now a slave in your own country. That's pretty much what happened. So we got to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
We got to be.
My old house, I had 1,100 square foot home, and I was paying $2,400 a year in property taxes, which is double what I paid for my 1,700 square foot home here in Havasu now. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And the money issue is just the beginning. You know that. I mean, the money is bad enough. Just the beginning. Then they can tell you what you can eat, what you can drink, what you must put on your body. I mean, seriously, for me, the idea is not even about conservative or liberal. It's about right or wrong. It's about freedom or tyranny. These people, they call themselves liberals. I tell them always, you are a fascist. You are just a government worshiper. Okay, that's what they are, and they are cowards, in my opinion. Because you know what? I have more respect for a thief on the street that's trying to mug me. Okay, at least he wants my money, and we're gonna have a conversation face to face, and maybe if he's good enough, he's gonna get my money. But he needs to try it. Instead, these people, they are like little leeches. Okay, they are like Papa, Mama, please get this money, get this money. So they have the legalization of stealing through the government. Okay, and they pretty much make a thing like, okay, this is the law. Just because 51% of these parasites, they can get a freaking job and get a life and make their own way. That's why I'm so disgusted. I left Italy because of that.
Or they try to win the lawsuit lottery. It's just amazing. We got that culture of people that think, they were discriminated against in this way or that way, and they need to,
Exactly. Listen, I really appreciate your call, and, I'm glad we talk, because sometimes, conversation is good. We know each other better. Sometimes, I tell you, many people from the other side, or at least from the other side, they confuse with me. Because, they think, oh gosh, this guy must be almost a liberal. Just because I say things that, they are not part of following the party line. I tell you, when I was in the Republican Party, it was my duty as a prison committeeman to engage the people that are supposed to represent us, and I keep them at the higher standard than the other side. Because I never voted for the other side, but I voted for my people there, and I demand that they stick to their words, to the principles, okay? So that's the bottom line. And the principles for me are very simple. We have a Bill of Rights, we have a Constitution, and a Declaration of Independence. We start with that. And we need to constrain that in that type of environment. Everything out, you start to be too creative, in my opinion. Anyway, listen. Go ahead.
And if you're a politician and you're pissing people off on both sides of the aisle, then you must be doing something right. That's what I always say.
Perfect. So listen, I want to give you the floor, the last 60 seconds, whatever you want to say. If you want to say something to our representatives, if you want to say something to the listeners, or whatever you want. 60 seconds for free. Come on, go ahead.
Okay, well, I want to basically coin the term hybrid, and you may have seen that on my Facebook post before. When I was in California, I didn't have a voice because I was a conservative, and I know there are liberals here in Arizona that feel like they don't have a voice and their vote doesn't count. So they disguise themselves as conservatives.
Okay.
And a lot of them will go into political discussions to try to disrupt the discussion, to try to get people to not vote, basically stay home on election day. And my point being is, no matter what, even if you don't agree with everything, whoever wins the primary, please get out there and vote. Because if you do not vote, you are giving a vote to the Democrat Party.
Okay, all right, good.
So I would don't be discouraged by these hybrids that, and just because somebody like Rand Paul doesn't become, our Republican electee or somebody you like, still get out there and vote.
I understand.
That's all I got to say.
I understand. Good. Listen, and this is good. I say the only thing I hope that the Republican Party starts to clean up house of all these funny bastards because, from Bonner, now we go to Paul Ryan. That is the same type of garbage on McCain. We are really, I say me because as a country, I don't care if you're a party or not. This is about the country. We're all going to be, sinking into garbage. That's the bottom line. But anyway,
absolutely. You escaped that from Europe thinking you were coming to a better place, and now you're seeing it happen here.
Listen, I have nightmares at night. Seriously. You have no idea. Because, when you realize that this is the last place we have in the world, it really is. I'm not going to go back there. First of all, I'm not welcome. but more important, there is no other place. I've been around the world before I came here, okay? And that's why I'm kind of mad when I see things that they are deteriorating in front of our eyes. Not because they're smart, because we are stupid, because we are lazy. Our founding fathers, for God's sake, they had to give their life, their limbs, and their property to make it happen. All we have to do is stand up and speak up and start to have the right attitude. We don't work for them. These politicians work for us. Simple as that. Listen, I appreciate you. I'm glad we talk. And guys, you're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Don't forget, if you want to support the show, this is about freedom of speech, okay? And I want you here. If we have a little bit of disagreement, maybe we can talk it out. Maybe we can know each other better. But more important, if you really hate me, I want you here, please. If you're a super communist, I want you here. I will pay you to be here. If you're a fascist, I want you here. Anybody that disagrees with me, I want you here, because this is where we engage each other in the arenas of ideas. If you want to support the show, go to lovegunsfreedom.com, download any of my songs for 99 cents. Don't go away. Second hour, it's all about guns. Lock and load.
You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States.fm network. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on United States.fm network.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on KTOX 1340 AM and on United States.fm network. This is the hour about guns. I like to divide this hour into different parts, okay? There is the hour, of course, about practical things, training, schools, instructors, and also, of course, deals, guns, ammunition. I try to help you out in every way I can to give you all the tools to become responsible gun owners and also, of course, proficient gun owners. Then there is also the part that for me is as important, or maybe even more important. The part that it's about our rights, our gun rights. Because, the fact everybody can shoot a gun straight, at least you should be able to learn about that. But the idea to start to grasp the concept that the Second Amendment, it's a God-given right. And if you don't believe in God, that's fine. It's your natural right as a human being. It's something so powerful for me. I'm still not used to the idea, even, of course, I understand it, but coming from Europe, more I talk to my Italian friends or my European friends, it's like living in this twilight zone. But how do you defend this right? We exercise it. Simple as that. And that's why I really believe that sometimes some of us have to do a little bit of workout, use your rights or you lose them. And there are people out there that they have a lot to lose, I'm telling you, because sometimes, when you are a person in the society already established and you got your reputation and you try to do the right thing just because you want to exercise your right, you understand also the system try to crush you, will try to smash you, they try to blackmail you almost. And I'll tell you more. I have back on the show this gentleman that I really appreciate him and I really like what he does. And also I like his brain. He's a very interesting guy. It is not just what people may think, people who do not like guns, they think all the gun owners are a bunch of ignorance, I don't know, rednecks or whatever you want to call us. No, we are a big part of society, everything, white collar, blue collar, and also we have people with the great degrees in science. So right now I have this guy that I consider a friend, even I never really met him in person. We will meet pretty soon. His name is Dr. Peter-Steinmetz. Peter, are you there?
I am here, Luca. How are you today?
Very good. And everybody knows about you, but especially in the state of Arizona. But just to quickly refresh the story. What did you do so bad that you had to face the front pages of papers and being arrested at the Phoenix airport? And by the way, I hate that airport. I went a few months ago and I hated it. Tell us, what happened to you?
Well, Luca, basically what happened was the night before I went down there, I was subjected to some, ridiculous behavior on the part of the TSA, the Transportation Security Agency, where they wanted to seize things from mine and my son's luggage. And what really outraged me about it, of course, I'm sort of used to their obnoxious behavior in this regard, but what really outraged me about it that night was that they sat there and laughed about it, okay? That they thought that this was funny, that that an American citizen would be concerned that his privacy rights are being violated and that his property is being taken from him without any due process or any judicial process. They thought this was all very funny and should be laughed about. So, the next morning I got up and I decided that I was going to do a little bit of a protest about this, and I decided to take my AR-15 rifle and walk around right near the TSA checkpoints in the Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport as basically an emphatic protest about their treatment of us as, nominally free people.
Exactly. And I want to remind everybody that you did not infringe any laws, because you were in the non-secure area of the airport, and according to the Arizona gun laws, you were fine. Okay. Now,
that's right. In a public space, you can carry a firearm openly or concealed. That is our legal right.
Okay, so you're just exercising your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, simple as that. Now, if people want to know more about the story, of course, all they have to do, Google your name, and we talk about a few times, at least a couple of times on the show. I also had your attorney, Mark Victor, that also used to be still my attorney anyway. Anyway, so that's great. Now, let's talk exactly the point. You are there. By the way, I would like to remind everybody that we all individuals, we all very particular. I don't care if you are a blue collar, I don't care if you have 3 degrees or whatever, but you're a very specific guy. You studied a lot in your life. You are a neurologist. You got an MD, a PhD, biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. You are guys like you normally don't go around walking with the AR-15, okay? They stay in the lab and they look at the microscopes and they mind their business. What happened to you? I want to be almost like your mom. What happened to you? What did we do to you to make you look like that and become like that? And by the way, I'm proud of you.
It's an interesting story, actually, in a sense. So, I pretty much all my life been a libertarian, Luca, ever since really the movement started back in the 70s, and I found out about it as a teenager.
Uh-huh.
And so I had no real interest in gun rights particularly until late 2012 after the Newtown murders, when, they started threatening to bring back the assault weapons ban. And I think prior to that time, my attitude would have been described as sort of, I grew up in a house that was very anti-gun. My parents were very strong pro-civil rights people. I remember as a child, marching in anti-Vietnam War protest marches and things like that, and civil rights marches.
Yes.
But they were not at all pro-gun. They didn't see that as a right that went along with these other rights.
Mm-hmm.
And, I never really thought very seriously about it. I guess my attitude as an adult would have sort of been, well, maybe we need to have this Second Amendment and people can have guns. Maybe that's the price we pay for a free society, is having this. But, maybe it is kind of dangerous, like my parents always taught me to even consider having guns in the house.
Wow.
So that was sort of my attitude.
Okay, good. And this is exactly the point. We all evolve, we all learn, okay?
Right.
And that's the beautiful thing. Today I changed since 10 years ago. And one thing I hope out there, listeners, they even maybe now do not understand the importance of the Second Amendment. Maybe listening to this conversation, and I tell you, I had incredible proofs. I had a lady from California just last year, 1 year ago. She hated guns. She thinks guns were supposed to be only in the hands of cops, of course, and criminals.
Right.
That unfortunately she forgot about that part. But regardless, 1 year after, she called me and said, you know what? And after especially all these, there were no accidents, but they were planned by the government, because after all, when you create a gun-free zone in a school, you invite criminals to be there. You create
you're labeling it an area that the victims are likely disarmed.
Exactly. So that was part, my opinion, responsible also of the government creating these federal laws that law-abiding people cannot carry a gun on these schools, on these public places. So anyway, bottom line was 1 year after just having a legal conversation 1 year before, and after start to use her brain, having an open mind, she said, well, anyway, look, I really realized I was wrong, and I understand the importance of gun. It's not just about criminals. The real criminals now are in the government. And this
that's true.
Okay.
And in fact, one of the original purposes of the Second Amendment was to make sure that we, the people, can protect ourselves from the criminals in the government.
Exactly. And that would
right.
be for, I tell you, if I had to stop today, my little, broadcasting, I don't even call it career because I couldn't care less. I do this as an act of love. I'm not here to become the next radio guy. But still, if I would have to stop right now, my little broadcasting experience, she made my day, okay? She gave me the purpose of this show, even if I could give the chance to one person. And she's a Democrat, by the way, okay? At least she's not exactly what you consider the average gun owner. So I was so happy, and she gave me joy, and I say, I love you. And I say, I can't wait to buy your gun, and I also give you a front side class, okay?
Right.
All right.
Well, so my experience in some ways was somewhat similar. I mean, in the sense that, after the Newtown murders and they started threatening this, I just thought to myself, well, this is starting to kind of sound more serious.
Yes.
I need to find out what really is the story here.
Exactly.
And so, I started looking into the information and, started educating myself on this. And, the first thing I found out is what I just said, that the real intention of the Second Amendment was that individual people have the ability to have these firearms to help keep the country free. And the next thing I found out was that, this whole notion that somehow it makes it more dangerous if you have a gun in your house or something. As a doctor, I was concerned about that, but I found out that most of what the media is saying about all this is just nonsense. And if you look at the work of John Lott and so on, it becomes very clear, if you're willing as a scientist to sit down and really look at the data.
Yes.
It becomes very clear that, when we pass, shall issue concealed carry permit laws, violent crime drops. That's probably the clearest result from a scientific point of view. But there's lots of other results that, really, criminals, of course, fear people who might be armed and tend not to make them victims.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is the point. It's not something nobody is forcing you to do anything, out there. Let's say you don't want guns. That's fine.
Right. You'll still benefit, though, from
exactly.
the other people in society who are armed. There's what we call a herd immunity effect in medicine, so it's like most of the people being immunized. Not everybody has to be immunized.
Exactly.
In order to get the benefit of immunization. And similarly, not everybody has to have a gun. In fact, probably just a small percentage of people carrying is a very strong deterrent to people trying to commit violent crime.
Exactly. And also another point, I always have conversations, I'm from Italy and I still have a lot of friends and family there. And I realize how much really this country is unique. Because around the world, probably everywhere, even in Switzerland, people think, okay, Switzerland, they got guns. It's still state's property. It is still a privilege. It is not a right. So,
right. I think, we're probably one of the few countries that actually has it as a natural and a law-recognized right to keep and bear.
So, and this is very important, guys. You may like it or not, that's fine. But normally, as I said, I don't even debate my natural rights. I don't debate my First Amendment. I don't debate the Second. It's my right. But just because we're having a talk show here, and we need to start to, fill the time, I like to give you the opportunity to also think about it. I have this friend from Rome. His name is Claudio, and he was on my show last Sunday. And, in his mind, poor guy is a good guy. I like him. He's a friend since I was in my 20s. But his brain is still so molded. Like, I don't want to use the word slave, but that's the point. We were slaves in Italy. We are slaves in Italy. Because from the Romans, that only the Romans, citizens, and more important, only the soldiers and the Romans could have weapons. But the slaves were never allowed to be armed. And then you progressed it to the time of kings and lords. Only the men's kings or lords, the enforcers, they used to have weapons. The peasants, nothing. And so then we progressed it to the new reality, what they call a republic, but it's not a republic, it's a democracy. There is not a Bill of Rights. And Claudio was saying, for example, my friend, by the way, in Italy you can have a gun, but if you can justify that you have a business, you make a lot of money, and you can justify that you really need it. Say, this is, first of all, it's very classist. Every human being should have their right, not because I make a lot of money. What's about a little retired person that he has not enough money? Should die in his own house? But if he missed the point, because they don't understand the real point is not about personal safety, it's about defending your rights of freedom and this republic against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So that's for me the most important point. Now, the most important point, it's you. Because I tell you, I have a lot of respect for you. You have a beautiful family. You could say, I don't really give a damn. I got my business. I got my degrees. I'm making plenty of money. I don't need all this stuff. Why should I go in front of, risking my life? Because after all, they can shoot you. This is not a game, okay?
That's right.
I mean, look at it.
It does entail some risk to openly carry in this fashion. That's correct.
And especially, at least the accidents happen. Sometimes they're unfortunately not negligence. They're really criminals. Not because somebody has a uniform means it's always perfect. There are good people and bad people everywhere, okay? And we know that there have been cases, people are shot in the back just because they weren't listening, okay? So, and if they find a gun on you, even this is the state of Arizona, you never know. You may find a policeman that maybe has some mental problem. Who knows? I don't know. All I know that you're putting your mouth out and you really also do the walk, okay? So what's going on now? You're preparing an event after your arrest, after you had pretty much you are not guilty. You found out the deal to work with your attorney and with, of course, the prosecutor that you have no felony, you have nothing, you're clear. But now, what are you going to plan to do the next few weeks? Because something's going on.
Yeah, well, so this has to do with the Transportation Security Administration, which, was a part of my original protest. And, for your listeners, may not be familiar, these are the people in the blue costumes in the airport that insist on searching everybody's luggage and so on. Nominally, they were put in place, of course, after the attacks on 9/11 to supposedly protect us from, terrorist attacks on airplanes. But of course they've never they've been around 14 years. Their birthday is coming up on November 19th, and they will have been around 14 years. They've been doing this to us. Mm-hmm. And if you stop to think about it for a minute, it's like it doesn't make a lot of sense that they can legally do that when you consider the Fourth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, which says that we shall be free from unreasonable searches and seizures. Mm-hmm. But, it's justified on the grounds of, well, we can't have another terrorist attack on airplanes and so on. The problem is that when we look at the data that's been gathered about what's going on with the TSA, it's very clear that they actually aren't helping our security. They actually probably are harming it. they probably are responsible. The fact that it's a hassle to fly on flights now makes a lot of people not take short airplane flights, like from Phoenix to LA, say, and drive instead. Well, driving is a much riskier, more dangerous activity than flying on a commercial airliner. And so if you compute the numbers of people who have given up on these short flights and driven instead, and then you know the increase in risk, the TSA actually is indirectly probably responsible for 500 extra deaths on the highway every year.
Wow.
They've never caught a single terrorist other than their own employees that they've sometimes arrested for being connected to terrorist organizations.
Well, sex offenders. Once that many they were sexual predators.
But other than that, they've never thwarted a single terrorist attack, and there's no evidence actually that the systems that they're using are likely to thwart a terrorist attack. If you sit down and you examine the mechanisms they're using and so on, it's very easy to consider workarounds. They create actually a very attractive target with these large lines of people waiting to go through their screening at the airport. You know, this would be a very attractive place if you were a terrorist to blow up a bomb, right, and hurt everybody in the line.
Let me give you some data, okay? Because the people out there think, okay, we're just talking about hot air. No, there are facts, and this is coming from mainstream media, okay? They normally they lie. 95% of airport security tests conducted by the Homeland Security, Department of Homeland Security, failed at the TSA. Think about it. 95%.
That's right. So your chances of being caught if you're a terrorist are only 4 or 5%.
You know how many billions of dollars we are paying for these bastards? I mean, seriously, I really mean it.
Actually, I do. It's $8.1 billion per year.
Oh my God.
And this is the other way that they actually really harm our safety. I mean, if you look at this as a doctor would say, I want to save lives. I have $8.1 billion to spend.
Yeah.
I want to save lives.
Yeah.
It turns out there are interventions that are probably 100 times more effective than spending that $8.1 billion on the TSA. For example, installing tornado shelters in the Midwest. Okay, is about 100 times more effective. Another one that's almost 100 times more effective would be buying and giving away bicycle helmets for children.
Yeah, I agree.
So,
I mean, if I have to do socialist, let's do it right.
Right. So if we're going to spend that money, as a libertarian, I don't believe in the government, stealing money from one person and giving it to another. But if we are going to spend that money to try to save lives, certainly the TSA is the wrong way to spend that money.
I agree. And this is so important. Also, let me tell you my personal experience when I came to America. At the beginning, I was, of course, an immigrant, and I consider myself like a guest, okay? But in 2005, something magic happened, okay? April the 29th, I became a naturalized American, and I started to act like it, okay? Because I don't want to just say, oh yeah, land of the free, and then I'm your slave. No, So I came back from Italy after I became a citizen, and my attitude changed a little bit at the airport. So the first thing they asked me is, why did you go to Italy? I said, my personal business. And excuse me, why did you go to Italy? I say again, my personal business. They didn't like the answer, so they put me...
No, I don't imagine they would.
No, and they put me in the room with the men in the turbans. They got a special room for wannabe terrorists, okay?
Right.
And 3 hours there, and I stick to my principle. I say, by the way, excuse me, am I under arrest? Did I do anything bad? I have some sort of a warrant.
Yeah.
No. So what do you want from me? What do you want from me? I have a Fifth Amendment. I can talk. I'm sorry. I try to keep the language FCC compliance. Anyway, I have a Fifth Amendment, and what do you want from me? Open the bag. Okay, you want to open this bag? And open the bag. So it was funny, almost a comedy movie. I came to Italy for a few days, and I went to Italy just to see my mom. It was a 3 days short visit. Okay.
Yes.
And I had a little bag, very little. I didn't have a regular luggage. I have a personal backpack with 3 books that I wanted to study. One was Boston Tea Party Bible, gun Bible, like 650 pages book about guns.
Right.
Okay? Then, there was this document, late 90s, 1999, FBI flyer. If you watch a person that is too much into guns or talk too much about the Constitution or is too much into God or religion or whatever, is a potential domestic terrorist, People used to laugh at this. But I started to laugh really when I remember that piece of paper. And I have in front of me the TS guy with the Homeland Security guy, and I started to open my little luggage, my little backpack, and the first book came out was the Boston Tea Party Gun Bible.
Right.
His eyes started to become red. Say, oh my God, I see his face started to change color.
Yes.
Second book was like, the garlic on vampires, the United States Constitution. Oh my God.
Oh.
They decided to really call reinforcement, call another one. It's one of them. And then I was laughing because I know this can be possible because it came to my mind a little flyer. And I said, oh, no, I can't do that. The final book was Bible, the Bible in English from King James. Oh my God. And they need to know why I went to Italy. I say, you know what, you can kill me. I'm not going to tell you why I went to Italy because it's my damn business. After 2 hours like that, I'm saying, I'm not going to talk anymore. If you want me to talk, I got my lawyer. They say, okay, you can go. That was it.
2 hours, though.
2 hours. I should be arrested. I should sue him just because that's not even 10, 15 minutes, okay?
Yeah.
I almost lost my conscience. But that's the point. At the end of the day, guys, think about it. I wasn't even born here, but the point, somebody before us died and fought for something very simple that is not that simple because not every other country has. It's called the Bill of Rights. If you believe that the First Amendment, you should believe still all the Bill of Rights. And the Fourth Amendment is being destroyed. No, you know why? Because unfortunately, not enough people have been standing up to it. And
that's exactly right. And their justification for this, they justify it under this legal doctrine of, quote, administrative search, because they're not actually they're not proposing to search you in the course of an arrest for a crime. They're just doing this administratively to make sure we're all safe. Now, even if you buy that argument, even if you think that there should be a administrative search doctrine, which I do not. I think the whole thing is blatantly unconstitutional. But even if you buy that, one of the criteria that the courts have enforced for administrative search is that the search must be effective in actually achieving an important government objective. Mm-hmm. Well, when you're only catching 4% of attempts to smuggle contraband through, I'm sorry, you're not effective. You don't even meet that low standard.
I know, at least for me at this point, seriously, one of the reasons why criminals, like in gun-free zones, they are able to, let's say if we buy the BS story, I don't buy the idea of the box cutter or whatever, because unfortunately everybody else has been disarmed. That's the bottom line. But that's another story. The point is one thing for sure. There is something that even the person that would like to defend this idea, okay, I want to one moment play devil's advocate, okay? Yes, we need to have these people that, by the way, they are not even deputized. I mean, they're just regular privates acting like police. They are not even police.
They're not law enforcement.
Exactly.
Right.
But they think they have a badge. They have this God's complex, okay? And they can pretty much do things that if I was doing those things, if you were doing those things, like, for example, if you were touching, even through clothes, okay? I mean, between clothes, a man or a woman, that would be right there a misdemeanor. If I contact on tactile, I mean,
no, it's worse than that, Luca. And in fact, it really made my blood boil the last time I flew on a commercial flight with my son because they wanted to search me, and so he opted out.
Yeah.
And so they were giving him the body pat down, and I was watching this, and I realized as they went and did this, and they're sitting there and touching your genitals and so on through the clothing, okay, and I realized in the state of Arizona, if somebody else were doing that, that's the legal grounds for lethal force.
Yes.
In other words, if somebody else were doing that to my child or any child on the street, I would be legally justified in taking my gun and shooting to kill them. Right then and there.
I mean, that's the point, and by the way, let's also use the logic, guys, okay? We have our borders intentionally open, wide open, that they can come and they bring them with trucks and no controls. I mean, the same administration is bringing people from Guatemala and they don't even need to have a passport with a background check, but we are paying for the freaking airplane tickets. Meanwhile, the average Joe, or even worse, when you got people really that you see like a little child, or you have a grandmother, or you have, talking about profiling, sometimes, we should look about also those things, okay? About harassing and touching, making our life miserable. This is my opinion, it's just conditioning, because look what you do. You go now through a machine. By the way, I'm not a doctor, but I can read the reports. This super X-ray machine, that, by the way, everybody should know the truth. They were supported by the lobby of Mr. Chertoff when he retired. He was in charge also of this company that was selling this crap to us as the taxpayers. So Chertoff used to work for Homeland Security, and then returning revolving door, he sold this multi-billion dollars or whatever it is, or even more, deal that is not a deal. What do we do when we go through this machine? We raise our hands, correct?
Well, they require us to raise our arms. That's right.
Yeah, the same position normally when you get arrested, or when you go in, during the Germans' time when the people put you in the freaking camps, or when they put you, papers, please. This is a conditioning. And,
it's very dangerous. And Luca, actually, I figured out on my last trip. I was just recently, I was going to visit, the group, they call themselves Liberty for Everyone now in Detroit, but they used to be called Hell's Saints, the open carry activists there in Detroit, and I went to visit them recently to walk with them in some Michigan cities.
Okay.
And when I was going through there, I finally realized that, the only way that I personally can really go through this thing, the sort of minimal way I can go through it, if I'm not going to deliberately try to sort of make trouble for them, which sometimes, of course, I try to do, but if I'm not going to try to do that, I realize I don't even really want to comply with them or aid their compliance in any way. So the way I go through now is I will obey their direct commands, but only their direct commands.
Mm-hmm. I understand.
Right? So when I go up, I just try to walk through.
Yeah,
and if they then tell me, you must place your laptop on that baggage thing over there, I will take out my laptop and I will put it there.
Yeah,
and then they will have to tell me, you must take out your wallet and put that over there.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right?
I understand.
Because I don't want to cooperate with them in any way. I don't want to aid this charade and this blatant violation of our rights.
And this is guys, out there, you may maybe believe that this is a purpose. Let's use the logic. 95% of tests from Homeland Security, the same government that we have, supposedly they're working for these people. They prove that the TSA failed and is failing. Number one. Number two, there are great cases, of course, of people that don't even have a real background check. Many of them, they've been found guilty of sexual crimes, sexual predators. Think about if you're a sexual freak predator, that's the best job you can get. You can go there and pedophile, you can
that's what they were doing in there was the case in Colorado at Denver International. They just recently charged these guys, right, where they had homosexual men who had an arrangement with somebody near the front of the line to pick out what they perceived as being attractive males for additional body pat-downs so that these homosexual male agents could, in fact, grope the genitals of these other men.
This is so sad. No, really, this is the point. Now, we can do something. After you do your researches out there, say, maybe Dr. Steinmetz is right. Maybe we got to start to speak up. Let's use our First Amendment. Let's start to show that we are not completely dead. Because the point we comply, we are silent, we're going to just pretty much say, okay, we are dead. No. We have freedom of speech. Let's use it. Let's organize. Let's start to show that we still have some pride and some little bit of dignity as a human beings, as Americans. And there is a way, peacefully, to start to expose these scumbags. Tell us exactly your event, when it's happening, what exactly you want to do, and if people, what can do to help.
Yeah, well, so we decided that given that November 19th was the birthday of the TSA, that shortly after that we should have a little birthday event for them, if you will. So on November 21st, which is a Saturday, we are going to have an educational demonstration at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport, in which we are going to, do two things. We're going to hold up we're going to be there, we're going to be holding up signs that point out some of these facts about the TSA, about, basically how they are not helping security and so on. And we're also going to be passing out, small pieces of literature to help emphasize that point.
Great.
Now, we actually did something similar to this last December. A friend of mine and I went down after the TSA decided to, make a big hassle for me. We went down to the airport last year, and we found that actually this is probably pretty successful as a technique because, if you poll the average American citizen, first of all, the vast majority of them think the TSA is a pest, of course. But about half of them seem to think that the TSA is doing some good, right? That this is a necessary evil, if you will. And so we want to educate people that, look, this isn't necessary at all. In fact, they're probably actually hurting our security. So to do that, we found it to be pretty successful to hold up signs with sort of, eye-catching slogans on them to get people's attention, and then give out literature. And about half of the people there, overall, we got a very positive response.
Excellent.
From people in the airport, because a lot of people are very scared of the TSA.
Mm-hmm.
They think that, if you even say anything about the TSA, they'll start hassling you, and so on. And so I think that this helps to break down that sort of invulnerability of the TSA, that people could actually be standing there right in front of their line, right, with a sign saying this is pointless, essentially, right?
Well, unfortunately, there's one thing is true. At least some of us, we're way past the time to be afraid. But the point is, yes, now what they're trying to do, they try also to snoop on social media. I mean, this is directly from Russia Today, RT.com. That the TSA, you could start to look at your social media. That means they see exactly what you do, what your type of statements you do, what political opinions you have, and then they can give you have this cues to treat you even in like now, the definition of domestic terrorist is pretty much everybody who believes in freedom. If you believe in the Bill of Rights, that's right there. You're on top of the list, So,
yeah, well, I was placed on, after I did my protest in August of 2014, I was placed on their SSSS list.
Wow.
Which is the list basically that they use to do, full body pat downs and extra scans on your luggage and so on.
Wow.
And so I was on that for about a year. Recently they've taken me off, I guess, because several times now I've filed redresses with them and so on. To me, I don't worry about this. Obviously, they're probably going to place me on this list. But that, we need to stand up. And the more people that stand up, the better.
I think every American should be on the list. They should have run out of paper and ink. That's what we should do. That's the way we're going to take this country back. The point that we all stand up and we do a little bit. There is not enough, more focus to put focus on any one of us. Because,
Yes.
I can go, you can go, but guess what? They're not going to kill us all. They cannot arrest us all. That's the bottom line. And, of course, I'm not talking about here dying. I'm talking about here just start to do the basics. We want to avoid to go to a deeper level of tyranny. Let's start to use our First Amendment, start to use the education like you're doing, flyers, information, because after all, I believe that every human being, after all, not everybody, some people like to be a slave. I really believe that. But the average human being would like to be free, would like to at least to have the opportunity to live with dignity. And when they understand with some logic that this is evil, and the facts prove, they can start to activate themselves and do the little part, even just, start to talk to your useless congressman, start to tell him what you think about it. That's the first step, And
yeah, I think we need to change the public perception. We need to get this 50% of people thinking it's a necessary evil we need to help educate people and get that percentage to be a lot lower. And once we have, a larger percentage of people realizing this is just security theater, it's a joke, then we have a chance, I think, to start making some other sort of improvements. I mean,
exactly.
So, the website that we're running now, Luca, is realairlinesecurity.org.
Mm-hmm. Say it again. Spell it for me, please.
Okay, it's REALLINESECURITY.
Perfect.
And then .org. So on there, we're starting to collect a lot of information, okay, about what is happening with the TSA, so people can definitely go to links there. The other thing you'll see there is that we advocate for a 3-step solution to this problem, because, you can say, well, what's the solution? Are we just going to get rid of the TSA? What are we going to do? Mm-hmm. And what we advocate for is a 3-step program of privatization of airline security. And the first step is to privatize the screeners. And we can already do that under current law. In other words, an airport can say, we don't want these government unionized pension-seeking employees to do the screening. Mm-hmm. We want to have a private company come in and be responsible for the screening. And that's been done at 19 airports around the country, and it's been shown to actually improve, not a surprise, improve customer responsiveness, because those people could actually be fired if they do a bad job.
Exactly.
Okay.
There's more accountability. Now, people are receiving messages meanwhile say, hey, look, that's great, I like this stuff, but what's about the guns, man? This is the hour about guns. Guys, it's all connected. Because, first of all, this is Arizona, as I said, and it's right is a muscle. Use it or lose it. I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you what you should do. I know that we all have a First Amendment, and also we have a Second Amendment. And the point is, Dr. Steinmetz, Peter, When was the time last year or so when you went into that situation? You were alone, but you were exercising your right. You were doing exactly what also the law said that you can do, and you still had to face, the violent part of the government to try to force you that, make you feel like you were breaking the law when you didn't. Now, that's
right, and I think with respect to the TSA, Luca, if I can interject here,
yes,
I think that. I agree with the people, who were, from Detroit who say, look, it's not commonplace to walk around. We have the right to do this. We have the right to walk around in society with, a long gun or a rifle. But one of the purposes of walking around in public with long guns and rifles is essentially to send a message, to demonstrate something about our freedom.
Exactly. And as much as it may seem extreme, the point is exactly the point. You have the right, but the point that nobody exercises it, nobody uses it, they automatically, even it's your right and it's the law, you're going to get in trouble because, wow, why are you doing that? So, more important, there are always, happy medium between. This is going to be the focus probably about the TSA, not much as about carrying, open carry. You know what? In the state of Arizona, since the first day I came here, there is no one day, unless I have to go, and I try to go less as possible, to the post office or federal buildings. I don't go there. I carry my weapon, my side weapon, my handgun, anywhere allowed by the law. And I would not change anything if I had to go to the airport, where exactly in the non-secure area where it's allowed. I would make a point to be sure I not only have one gun, but I have two guns, one on the right, one on the left. But regardless, the point is the great opportunity, in my opinion. That's why I wanted to bring you in this hour about guns. It's about rights. It's about the First Amendment, but also the opportunity to do exactly what you did when you were exercising your Second Amendment in a non-secure area of the airport.
And people are welcome to, as I say, I would encourage everybody who cares about our Fourth Amendment rights, our rights to privacy, to come down and help us out with this protest about the TSA. Again, it'll be on November 21st at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting at the parking lot for the SkyTrain initially, and then carpooling over to the different sites at the airport. But we want to meet there in that parking lot for the SkyTrain at 1 p.m. And we'll have signs, we'll have literature, everything ready to go. So if people, who are interested in helping us defend our rights want to show up, that's wonderful. If you just come with a willingness to help. Anyone who wants to come and carry is certainly more than welcome to. I think that's a wonderful thing to do as well.
Especially, if you carry, like handgun, like normally we do in the state of Arizona.
That's what we do, yeah,
it's
exactly.
Simple. I wouldn't change anything. I wouldn't leave my gun in the car just because I don't want to offend some government workers or para-government workers because they may be disturbed. Too bad. I am not in the secure area. I'm allowed to carry. I'm responsible. It is in my holster. I'm exercising my First Amendment. Leave me the heck alone. Simple as that. If I could suggest you some special weapon to bring, all of you guys, bring a beautiful, with double batteries, video camera. Every one of you should have
we need a lot of video cameras and people recording as well, because, I suspect in my case, for example, that if I had, if somebody had been walking right next to me with a video camera, I imagine I might not have been arrested. I don't think the police would have been trying to cook up some story, right, as the basis of an arrest.
I agree.
If they had known it was all being videotaped.
I agree. That's why I say, I have a gun always on me, and thank God I never use it. But I have a video camera in my other side of my holster, and I use it almost every day, and that's the biggest deterrent, against everything. Evil in general doesn't want to be exposed, and that doesn't mean that just some corrupted government agent. That could be also the typical criminal that want to become a criminal, but when you start to see that you start to put them on video, you start to run away because they don't want the attention, So it's very important, I really say everybody, the camera, it's the truth. The camera is the facts, no edited. And that's what we should really have on our side, the truth and the facts. Now, this is the hour about guns. I got people already say, great, I want to go there, I'll go there, but that's fine. But can we talk about guns too? Yes. Okay, now, after this, of course, great event, that I think should be very important because it's part of our exercising our rights, and I wanted to incorporate also here, since we are in Arizona, please do it in a let's say, I don't like to call polite, but doing with way taste. You know, we after all law-abiding people. Let's show them that they come to us. Sometimes, I live in the desert. I must tell you, I wear boots and I got my pants. I live on a farm, so that's fine. But when the few times I come to town, and I always open carry, I like to even make a more point. I'm a person and I have dignity. And when I go into these places, I like to dress even more intentionally. That I want to show that put your hands off. Because I'm not your slave, I'm not your peasant, okay? So it's up to you guys, do whatever you want, but try to always get the upper edge, do it with taste. If you got a gun, put a beautiful gun, put a beautiful holster, put a beautiful shirt, show it off to these people that we are not their slaves, okay? After all, we're supposed to be the masters, we're supposed to be the people that pay for the salaries, okay? So let's show a little bit.
That's good advice, Luca, good point.
Yeah, let's show that we got class, okay? And when they come close to us, I tell you, it changes everything. Even when the cops approaches you, if they see that you are dressed decently, they start to treat you differently. It's normal. It's human. Okay?
Yeah, they make an assumption.
Yeah.
And maybe it may be justified, maybe unjustified.
Oh,
of course, in my case, it doesn't apply anymore. They come up to me and they go, "Oh, Dr. Steinmetz."
Yeah, okay. Now guess what? It's not going to be...
What are you up to now?
Exactly. But no more Dr. Steinmetz. It's going to be every one of us can become Dr. Steinmetz. That's the idea.
I hope we'll have a good number of people coming. And, as I say, I encourage everybody to come. And I would encourage, people in other parts of the state or even other states, if they want to do something on the 21st. Also, if you go to our website, we'll try to, or you contact us, you can always do info@realairlinesecurity.org, and that will come to us as an email. And we're certainly happy to provide, the materials, the sort of sign images and printouts for brochures that we will be making. We're certainly welcome to give them to anybody who would like to run similar events elsewhere.
Perfect. Dr. Steinmetz, since we have 15 more minutes, you want to stay with me? I'm going to finish up some guns issue. Maybe you can give me your input on things. I got some good deal. Okay, first of all, in this hour, normally I like also to share good deals, okay? I go out, I go on the internet. These are not even my sponsors. I really do because I would like to give the information to every law-abiding person out there to get the best deals to afford guns and training and ammo. The deal of the week that I found for a great rifle that I think is the foundation to become a rifleman, and this is also an incredible deal because it's a collector series. It's the Ruger Collector Series 1022 carabine, 22 of course, and this is out of a Sportsman Guide. Why I like this rifle? I like any Ruger. That's a great rifle to train, especially when you do the modification that I'm going to tell you right now. To become a rifleman, you need, first of all, a sling, because we shoot from standing, sitting, and prone. We do not use the benches, and the rifle with the sling is the must. Now, this rifle, what I like, normally the regular Ruger 1022, there are not the little, connections for the swivels for the swing, it's for the sling. So you need to do it. You need to insert them and buy them and drill it. This instead comes directly with the swivels for the sling, where you can adapt your sling, number one. More important, what I like, you have not only the front sight, that it's exactly the way we want it, but the rear sight, it is a different type of rear sight that is not a typical V, but there is a different type of rear sight that simulate the sight of an M14. Like normally what I do, when I buy my Ruger 1022, I buy an aftermarket kit for the front and rear sight that they simulate the same PIP sight like the M14. So this is an incredible rifle. By the way, and the quality, it's even better than the average standard 1022. We're talking about forged barrel and other beautiful things that make it very accurate. The price is incredible. I really believe it could be a great investment, and it's also collection items. It is for the 50 years of the Ruger. Anyway, it's $237.49. And you can make the payments in 4 payments. I used to buy stuff from Sportsman Guide. When I buy, you can become a member for $20. They can make you 4 different payments, no interest. So for $50 a month or change, you can get this rifle that I think it's the foundation for every type of marksmanship training. And all important is also a very helpful rifle to have. In my list of rifles, a 22, it's a must. Do you have any 22 rifle in your list of rifles?
Actually, I was going to comment on the 1022 that, if you're thinking about, just buying a single 22, that this is certainly one of the favorites. And especially if you're thinking about getting one, say, for a young man or young woman, My son used to love to practice with the 10-22 that was available for rental at our gun club. It's a very fun rifle for people to be learning on that. I actually ended up eventually I bought my son a bolt action 22, a CZ.
Okay, that's really good. I got those too, and I like them. Honestly, every rifle is good to practice. What I like about the Ruger 10-22, first of all, it's a very common rifle. There are a lot of spare parts, a lot of aftermarket parts, and it's reliable. You keep it clean. It's very reliable, very accurate. And I can do with this little modification. I like this aftermarket kit for the rear sight. You have exactly the same sight feature of an M14, a military rifle. So you can train, especially, I learned this from the Appleseed program. They show me this, and of course they have these 25 yards scaled down targets that they reproduce for minutes of angles. That means you have now, for example, 1 square inch little target at 25 yards. It reproduces exactly, for example, at 100 yards, there would be a 4 square inches, or 500 yards, there would be 20 square inches. That also is the military army qualification test for expert riflemen. You need to keep your group in 4 minutes of angle. So I really say, guys, if you don't have a rifle yet, I start with this one. That would be my first thing. And also, don't underestimate the rifle because it's 22. The rifle 22, it's a great survival rifle. I'm sure you're familiar with the purposes of what you can do with a 22, right, Peter?
Yes, definitely. Very good for hunting as well.
Yeah, if you have small games, you want to first of all keep the noise low. Of course, you got pests, rodents, and don't underestimate. Don't get me wrong. If I had to defend myself and my freedom from an aggressor or from a violent person, I want to have as much gun as I can. But a 22 is so easy to shoot and so accurate. There is no recoil that even a little young man or young woman can be accurate. And I tell you, they're one of the most lethal rounds out there. According to the statistics, it is the 22, because people underestimated it, and they think, the 22 is just a small round. It's so fast. So
what really matters, of course, with any round is how well is it aimed.
Exactly.
And what do you hit? And with a 22, you're, in a lot of cases, more likely to be able to hit.
Exactly. So I really say, guys, something I wanted to share with you this week. Go to sportsmanguide.com, check it out. As I said, I'm not getting paid for this, okay? I just do it because I would suggest this to a friend. Friends tell me, what rifle should I start with? Start with the Ruger 10-22, and then I would say, start to put a different aftermarket, upgrades. But here it's ready to go. $237, Sportsman Guide, Ruger Collector Series 10-22. And that's one thing I wanted to share with you guys. Now, another thing about, I always go around and say, little bit of, I don't say techniques because I'm not an instructor, but, I like to share what I know and what I do normally. By the way, I have a book that is almost ready. It's something that I would like to share with you because, I know that you are now also a front sight member. I consider myself like a professional student. What I do, I learn, and then I try to share with people. So I have my handgun book coming pretty soon, next month, and I like to put out from this experience a little bit of ideas. For example, do you ever try to do with your handgun the drill that I call the ragged hole drill? Did you ever heard about that?
No.
Okay, something I would like to share with every one of you. It's very important because that's going to give you the idea where is your level of mastering the basic 3 secrets of marksmanship with a handgun. Okay, the basic 3 secrets of marksmanship, probably I already talked about this, I repeat them quickly. First of all, you must have your sight alignment. You must align that sight exactly the way it's supposed to be according to your gun. Then you must have, of course, the sight picture. You want to put the front sight exactly where you want it to be. Then, of course, you got to also focus on that front sight. That's very important. And then you must master the trigger control. Now, the idea is, how do you verify that you're doing it right? You get like 1 square inch with a black marker, make photocopies, whatever, and put this little target on at the range, and go like about 5 yards. Okay. Then this is not time constrained. You can do it with much calm. Okay. From the ready position, you're going to start to aim for that 1 square inch at 5 yards, and every time you place the shot, every time you squeeze the trigger, you want to go through your mind all the principles that I just told you: sight alignment, sight picture, fog on the front sight, and that squeeze, that surprise break of the trigger. By the way, you must get 3 rounds at least, or 5 rounds. You make the little square inch completely like a ragged hole, all there in that little square inch. It seems like simple, but it's not. You don't have a handgun. Excuse me, you don't have a rifle. You have a little pistol. You don't have any support. And you shoot 5 rounds with calm, but you must put them in that square inch. When you start to realize that you do everything right, you will see it, because you will have all that rounds in that square inch. It's kind of beautiful, and you'll feel like, wow. But I tell you, you must really master all these basic 3 secrets, and especially the front sight. Focus on the front sight, because 1 square inch in 5 yards, it is not easy to hit, okay? And then once you learn that, you graduate to that level, you can also push it to 7 yards. Makes it even more interesting. So something to challenge. Why don't you give it a try? Maybe next time you go to the range, Peter.
I will do that. Yeah, I think I've sort of been shooting my pistol mostly at 7 yards, I guess, 21 feet. So I should try this little exercise with that.
Yeah, and this is just for marksmanship, by the way. This is not about, because the point is, of course, we do other exercises. This is just about being sure that you master the principles to shoot exactly and hit what you want to hit, to be accurate. Now, in the real, another thing I was going to touch today, the difference between target shooting for accuracy between real-life self-defense. We must find a compromise, Our group, we don't want to have the little group that every round stays in that little 1 square inch. Absolutely not. That would be something just when we do this type of marksmanship exercise. The ideal position of our rounds is supposed to be like a handspan. You want to have all your rounds in the handspan.
For self-defense,
for
right?
Self-defense.
So that you're not just hitting the same place over and over again.
You want to put exactly center mass, and center of the center thoracic mass, but you want to put all the round in that hand span. Why? Because that pretty much is the compromise between speed and accuracy. If you go too fast, you will see your group start to get too expanded. And there is the rule. I didn't make this rule. It's called the 50% rule. That means, you ever heard about the 50% rule, Peter?
Not applied in this case. Go ahead.
This is directly from front-side curriculum. I'm not here the instructor. I'm just repeating what I learned, okay?
Yeah.
Bottom line is this, the under stress, in the real life, not on the range where we have your cigar and, everything's cool and fine. In real life, you're going to have adrenaline. You're going to be stressed out. You're going to probably freak out. Your body is going to be full of chemicals. And at that point, your type of stress is going to influence also the accuracy. So let's say you're going to buy normally the average shooter out there, unless you're a professional, kind of trained, you're going to respond at least 50% less than your average. So let's say if my group is already way too spread out at the limits of the thoracic center area, you're going to be probably off. But if you keep your group in your handspan of the sides of your handspan, okay, in the center mass, you're going to be fine. So that's why we want to train to achieve accuracy and speed as a compromise and keep the group in that type of handspan. That's why it's called also the 50% rule. If you go bigger than the handspan, you may start to have misses, and that's very bad.
Right, but you still want to be as quick as you can.
Of course, but also, remember, we are accountable for every round we shoot. We are not like law enforcement. Law enforcement, they're always going to be somebody else paying the bill. If you do a mistake, unfortunately, you're going to go to jail or you're going to pay out of your own pocket. I mean, I'm not trying to be down on law enforcement, but law enforcement, unfortunately, if they make a mistake, say sorry, they have some sort of immunity. You as a law-abiding person, as a citizen, armed citizen, if you make a mistake, we are accountable for every round we shoot morally, economically, and criminally. So we got to really be sure that we must find a compromise between speed and accuracy. And sometimes it's better to, of course, you also must remember that, in the real world, it's not like the range. It's a three-dimensional environment. It is not just everybody safe. We have a target in front of us that doesn't shoot us back.
That's right.
People can be behind or can be between. So we got to think fast. That's why training is so important. Hey, did you ever go to front side after all that?
Well, I was up there. You kindly gave me this membership to Front Sight, actually,
yes.
And so I had taken the shotgun class.
Good. Now
last fall. So I was trying to get back up there this fall, but it just hasn't worked out with my schedule.
Perfect. Next time I would suggest really you would enjoy very much, because normally we carry the gun almost every day, the shotgun normally is more something we leave behind, you know.
Right.
Try to do the handgun class. You're going to really like it, you know. It's going to be a very great experience, I think.
That's next on my list is the handgun class.
Perfect. So listen, that's pretty much what I wanted to talk to you guys today. We had a great guest here, you know, Dr. Peter-Steinmetz, and this is about rights. You know, it's a Second Amendment, First Amendment, Fourth Amendment, they're all together. And one more time, last time, I'm going to let you please remind the people what's happening, when it's happening, and the website.
Okay, well, so our website is realairlinesecurity.org. So we're trying to improve security and the way security is achieved in the airports and the airlines. We're going to have a demonstration event to try to educate the public about how useless the TSA is on November 21st at 1 p.m. We'll be meeting at the parking lot for the SkyTrain, which is just north of the airport, and traveling from there over to help educate the traveling public about the TSA and what we need to be doing instead.
And of course, guys, this is also the opportunity to exercise your Second Amendment. Do it in a smart way. Do it in a way that also you show who is boss. We are the bosses. They work for us. So dress up nice and get your most expensive gun and the best holster you have, if you can. Okay, that's my personal.
I would love to see. I would love to see a lot of carriers there. As people may know, I can't openly carry at the airport until November of 2016 because of my deal with the prosecutor. So I will not be openly carrying, but I would love to see other people carrying.
Perfect. And by the way, I wanted to also remind the listeners, you know, I hope you enjoy the information I'm trying to bring you, the guest, and also the practical economic things. You know, I'm trying to make you save money, guys. I try always to find you deals and things I can try to share with you. Now, this show is not supported just by the Holy Spirit, because I'm here because I really believe somebody's helping me out, because sometimes I get tired and I don't know even why I'm doing it. But I do it because I love you, and I love this country, and I love freedom, and I want to take it back. I also need your help, though. Okay, I'm not relying on commercial sponsors, but you can help me out in a very simple way. And this is not even charity. This is something you get something back. Not only you get a show, but also you get songs. I write songs for a living. That's what I do. One of the things I do. You can go to one of my websites, for example, Zanna Art, ZANNAART.com. You can see the different things that I create between music, and also, of course, I have different other things you can find there, my paintings or prints. But even just with 99 cents, you can download any of my songs, and doing so, hopefully you enjoy the song, at the same time you support the show. So go to zannaart.com and please support the show and keep it free. That's all I wanted to say. Peter, thank you very much. Listen, I don't know what's going to happen with my life, but if I can, I would love to be there. But regardless, I will send you as many people as I can from here, okay?
Sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you. And guys, don't go away, because we have hour number 3. It's all about love. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna. Ciao.
We're not afraid. You work for us. We're not your slaves. Don't tread on us. You cross the line. Soon you will pay for all your crimes. Don't tread on us. We're not afraid. Your slaves, don't tread on us. You cross the line, soon you will pay for all your crimes. After a long train of abuses and insubmission, now we've lost our patience. Trying to kill our constitution, to kill our pride. Now the wood is dry. Yeah. Don't tread on us. We're not afraid.
Have you ever met someone on an online dating site and thought, wow, this guy is perfect for me, or she is simply amazing, only to find out they were hiding a deep, dark secret? They plan to vote for Hillary. FreedomLovers.us was created for singles who want to exchange ideas and their love for freedom. People who are looking for solutions to create and defend freedom in the real world, and at the same time, getting that once-in-a-lifetime chance to find their true soulmate. Whether you are interested in meeting your soulmate, making new friends, networking, or hanging out with that like-minded liberty lover, visit freedomlovers.us. It's the first free dating site and community. So patriots, don't waste your time with other dating sites. freedomlovers.us is the place where like-minded singles really click.
Here we go, guys. You're listening to Love, Guns, and Freedom with luca-zanna on KTOX 1340 AM. This is the hour about love, We talk about so many things. Food, recipes, physical love, spiritual love, motherly love, every type of love. And today, I wanted to bring something, and more important, one person that I really respect a lot is a man. He's an American man who a few years ago, he was the first, or at least one of the first pastors out there to denounce, to expose this conspiracy, and it's a conspiracy against the American people, by FEMA, this is a federal agency, to use pastors from different churches, from different denominations, but use them under the control of FEMA to direct, to manipulate the souls and the will of the American people in compliance with the federal government under martial law. Using, of course, part of the New Testament like Romans 13. I already talked about that already with him a few months ago. Also at the Pastor Chuck Baldwin, we talk about this. But today also I would like to bring him back in this hour of love, mostly, to talk about something that I really realize that probably is the most important weapon we must find. I mean, I'm not going to say must, because you do what you want. You know that. I'm not trying to tell you what to do. But for me, talking as a human being, in this journey of learning all this reality that we are facing as a humanity, I really realized that if I didn't have found my fate, even with my own limitations, I'm a human, I'm a sinner, I could be poster child for a sinner, okay? I'm not a bad person, I haven't done anything really bad, but I got my weaknesses as everybody else. So my point is though, regardless, I realized that, I can have all my ammunition, I can have all my rifles, I can have, all my knowledge about the Constitution, I can have everything that we should have anyway. Because, God at the end of the day tell us, help yourself and I will help you. But if I didn't have with me at the end the faith that all we are facing through right now is just part of a process, I don't know, and I didn't have faith in God. And, you can have faith in whatever you want. Seriously, this is your choice. But at the end of the day, find something that really is going to make you go through this stage, because sometimes they're unbearable. The things that we have to face here, they're unbearable. So I wanted to bring him back. His name is Pastor, kind of excited, Pastor Walt-Mansfield. And he's the man that really also inspired me to when I heard him the first time on the radio, he was on national syndicated Alex Jones show. And I said, this man, after all, is risking a lot, because when you start to expose plans that at the time they were kind of still hidden, like this, clergy response team, people die for less out there. So I really gave me the motivation to do my part and also to get my own little radio show and try to broadcast facts and truth as much as I can, as much as I'm around. So I have the honor to have back with me today Pastor Walt-Mansfield, and we will talk about several things. Pastor, are you there?
Yes, I am, Luca. How are you?
Very good. We had a few months, probably almost 1 year, I guess, since the last time we talked. Many things have happened. And what you got, first of all, to say? Any news from your part of the world? Where are you located right now? Which state?
I'm in Ohio, and it's very cold, as usual, this time of year, and windy, but it's fine here.
Okay. And, a lot of things that happen in front of our eyes. Seems that everything is accelerating. And today, since I brought you here in the hour of love, we already talked about very deeply last time about FEMA, the clergy response team, all these things. Today I wanted to bring you back for two main topics. Number one was, regardless people are religious or they believe in the scriptures or not, I mean, I'm not here to preach, but I would like to invite everybody to read, even from, let's say, a scientific point of view, with all the facts and evidence that we have, all these, international and national events, things that we can prove, and then we can start to look at some passages of the New Testament that pretty much start to connect all this to a very specific time for humanity. I mean, we are going towards a global government. Now, people, this is something that you cannot deny. It's on the open. All the different treaties, the United Nations, and, the administration that we have here, and of course, in other parts of the world. So global government, it's there. And this same global government was talked about it in different parts of the New Testament, of course, and also Old Testament. But the point is, there are a lot of similarities right now that every one of us, in my opinion, we should look at to understand that what the prophecies been saying in the scriptures are happening right now. And also, I would like to talk with you about a little bit the aspect of faith, if people wants to at least look into that, because, many people say, I don't care, and that's fine. I'm not here to tell you what to do. But I really believe that if I can share with my fellow listeners, human beings, and Americans, if they're Americans, but also listeners from around the world, the most important weapon I found out in my journey here to fight and to face without fear all the things that we are facing, it's faith. Without faith, I couldn't face anything. Seriously, this is my personal humble experience. So I would like to talk with you also from this point of view. Let's start, first of all, I want to give you the floor. Whatever you want to say beside this, anything you would like to touch today, a topic you would like to talk about.
You opened the door big time with the first one about global government. You tied that into the New Testament. There are many people who have ideas about biblical prophecy in the future. It's very clear we are not going to know a whole lot about the future, but we are going to know about the times. And there is no doubt whatsoever that what we see is, as well as in influence of a global government, we're seeing the deterioration of liberties and freedoms, where we are seeing people acquiescing to a government, bowing down to it as if it's their sugar daddy kind of thing. And that's been really sad. We've seen it among the churches. We are going to talk about faith, but we've seen it among the churches where they have no problem bowing down to what they call a higher authority. And it's not their God. They're bowing down to a central government, a system that will dictate every move of their lives. And unfortunately, they like it so. But one of the things that I really enjoy talking to people when it comes to times just like that is that people like us are seen as a resistance, some kind of movement that is against that. We're only taking our stand as human beings. We understand that we live this life. We are individuals, but we also have a community of people who are like-minded. When we band together, we're seen as a resistant, rebellious force, but that's not the truth. We're the ones that are doing the right thing. What's happening among us that we see is pretty much a takeover in our system. Just within the last, 10 days, with the Democratic candidates and the president coming out and saying that he favors getting rid of gun violence by using the Australian model. Mm-hmm. I don't think we stopped long enough to look at what the Australian model is. And it is a lot more than just a restriction of gun ownership and rights. It's pretty much a clampdown on free thought, thoughts of liberty and expression. It's a very dangerous thing to see, and to see this central government oppress folks underneath them and then acquiesce to a world system that believes the same way. That's probably the most frightening thing to come out within the last 2 weeks. And I think we really need to harp on that. I think we need to focus on that, because as a pastor, as one who is in the churches, we see some churches taking a stand and saying it's getting a little too close to home. We've been railing about this for years. I'm sure you have. Well, we certainly have.
Yes.
And now it's coming to fruition. More people are beginning to see it. My fear is that the Titanic is going down, and people are just beginning to see that there's a problem. There's something should have been done a long time ago. But this system that we have now, this government that we have now, is pretty much, and this is the right term, hell-bent on our destruction and enslavement. And there are too many people following in line right with it. So it's kind of like being a spectator at a football game of some kind, where people love the players on the field and fail to realize there's the whole world going on out here, and not seeing it for what it should be.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much part of what I see.
Perfect. One thing I'm glad you brought it up, because it was also the second part of the questions I wanted to ask to you. We are facing right now a reality that we've been talking all these years. And people may believe or not in the Second Amendment. That's not the point. The point is we have in America this right. It's part of our Bill of Rights. You like it or not. But more important, this is not for hobbies or for hunting. Because this is it's proven by history. The civilian ownership of guns is the last line of defense against any type of final oppression and violence by the governments. That's the point. And we are right now facing a reality that it's also more and more on the open. I really believe, and the facts talk about it, and there is in fact a Christian persecution of the Christians, not just outside the U.S., like in many Muslim countries that we can see on the news, but even now here by our own government. I mean, I want to be equal and fair for everybody. I mean, but when you start to see that the federal government start to pledge allegiance and money, more important, help, just some specific religious groups, and instead persecute for the same situations of religious freedom, other groups like the Christians, that's wrong. First of all, in my opinion, the federal government should stay out of the business of our private business, period. But when you see, you remember the situation with the bakery in Oregon and the cakes pastry. Okay, let's say for a moment that, first of all, my opinion is very simple. Private business is supposed to be private, and we're supposed to have the right to deny the service to everyone we want. The moment that we are forced to do something, we are slaves. I don't care if the guy, just because I don't like his face, I don't like his attitude. After all, I have the right to lose or make money the way I want. But we know how it ended up. The couple, the Christian couple, had to pay an exorbitant, amount of money after the lawsuit. But did you hear about the story about these two truck drivers? I forgot which state. Tell me a little bit about this story, because it's kind of interesting, please.
Yeah, those are the Muslim truck drivers who were forced to deliver beer, and they refused to. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes, exactly, that one.
Yeah, and they were allowed to sue the company for, I think it's almost $250,000, or the company was forced to pay them, and then tell them they did not have to do their job. And like you said, to turn right around and force a bakery to pay a fine for not servicing someone. And we have to remember, this is not some edict by a bunch of people who don't like the bakery or who don't like Muslims. This is the federal government, state governments coming right in, stepping on the throats of those who have the freedom to do what they want to do, and forcing businesses and forcing people to do the bidding of others. This has the backing of law in our federal government. That is not an overreach. That's just flat out tyranny.
Exactly.
So this is what I try to tell people. I'm very gentle when I want to correct people, but I think it's all over my face. I'm sure you face the same thing. When someone says something that is so outrageous, you can't hide your expression. But I look at them and I say, this is not an overreach. This is not something that's going to go away with the new president. This is the system we have now.
Yes.
And we're operating under a system that is inside out, upside down, and just out of control in some people's eyes, when you can, call evil good and good evil, and not only that, now it's backed by law.
Yes.
And people, I grew up, I'm 64 years old, I grew up with the phrase, you can't fight City Hall. And I was taught that early on, that you're just not going to go against the system and succeed. Well, nowadays, that's a matter of principle in everybody.
Yes.
They've gone so far as asking, why would you want to fight City Hall? It's the law. It's good for all people. If you don't like it, then you're not a patriot. You're not an American. This is horrible in what we're seeing. But these Muslim drivers, they complain, and they don't have to do it. A bakery, they were complained against. They're forced to do it. Clearly inside out and upside down.
Yeah, and this is exactly, you brought my next point, because many Christians I heard, oh, we got to do what the government says, or regardless, everything's being planned. We have just to stay here, stay put, and pray. Listen, you do what you want out there, guys. That's fine. I look at this, I may be probably wrong, I don't know, but I need to follow my heart. I'm following my instinct. I really believe that God, regardless what the exit, or the final results of this battle on this dimension, in this dimension, we are right now in on planet Earth, okay? And we may lose maybe a battle. By the end of the day, I really believe that we will be judged by our own actions or inactions in the next time. Because at the end of the day, what happens now, I see, unfortunately, too many Christians out there that they don't want to get involved, and they say, after all, everything's going to be fine. I'm saved. You know what? That's very selfish, first of all, my opinion. Number two, I really believe that regardless, sometimes, we got to stand for the principles. If somebody's committing a murder in front of us, I think at least I need to denounce it. If I see millions of little babies being aborted and make fun of them, like the latest scandals of, for example, Planned Parenthood, and I see all these tax dollars that we've been extorted, and goes to finance this travesty, these criminals with the white scrub, and just because it's a law. You know what? I don't care if it's a law. Even slavery was a law and was backed by the Supreme Court. I would have denounced that law. I would have at least speak up against that law. And I think at this point, I really believe it's the duty of every Christian out there, or anybody who professes to be a Christian, to at least to have the strength to speak up. I'm not saying to take arms and start to shoot at people. No, I just say at least speak up. Don't be a coward. And regardless what we do, if we speak up now against City Hall, if we win or lose, doesn't matter. I really believe God one day will judge us for our what we said or what we didn't say. What do you think about this? Should I probably just shut up and bend over, or we should really do our duty right now as Christians?
No, you were speaking the language of myself and many people we know. I think one of the phrases that I picked up over the last few months, let this be the battle in my lifetime. I'm not about to leave it for my children and grandchildren to fight it. That is not my role. And the church's role is certainly not to roll over and play dead, or in some cases, actually be dead. I don't understand why the church is not at the forefront in a lot of this. In a lot of ways, they are. There are many great men out there who are standing firm. They're just not making the worldwide press. We have a gentleman here in our area, many years ago, was fired from a head coaching job at a local high school. He was a football coach for praying with his team. It just happened again, and that's making national news. Well, this gentleman, Coach Dave Obamakare, began a ministry, and he has been plugging at this for years, and he leads hundreds, if not thousands of people to stand out in front of Planned Parenthood clinics. He stands up against tyranny in all forms. And he calls the church to, get out of what he used to call a holy huddle, the holy prayer huddle, and get out there and do the job. And I'm totally, behind him. And that's what I tell my people. We can submit a lot of things to prayer, but Jesus in the New Testament told his disciples, go by twos, go out and do the work. They won't listen to you. Kick the dust off your sandals and move on. Find people who will. Part of the point of that is that they're not to be sitting around doing nothing. They should go out and confront the evil. We have go on a rant here if you don't mind, but we have people who have an idea of Jesus as some kumbaya singing campfire coach, scout leader. That is not what he did. He confronted the religious leaders of his time with some very harsh, punishing, condemning words. He called a group of people who were following him. He called them out and said, "You're of your father, the devil."
Yep.
And by the end of that chapter, they were throwing stones at him. They sought to throw stones at him. He called people to take a stand. There's a whole lot more to that. Being a pastor, we get into theology and doctrine. There's a whole lot more to that. But just at the bare bones, obvious view, Christianity is not for lightweights. It's not for ladies and tea parties. Christianity is a gutsy men's religion. This is what we stand for. We've wimped out over the years, turned it into something that I don't recognize, but many people are calling it to the forefront. Coach Dave's doing it, I'm doing it, you're doing it, and others are doing it. But we can't leave this to our kids and grandkids. That is an abomination to a holy God. This is our calling, and this is time for us to stand up and face what we are facing today. The battle's here. The battle's now.
Exactly. And I would like to give a specific message to all the people that maybe they are from another religious belief or maybe they're atheist. Sure. Okay, this is not about Christianity right now. This is about freedom. This is about that we still have some dignity as a human beings. And what we're trying to do now, we try, of course, to send, in my opinion, I would like to reach out all the people that also they profess themselves to be Christians, to be alert, to be aware of the dangers that, unfortunately, many churches, they've been manipulated and controlled by the government. And they will use the church against us to manipulate our will and our souls. That's number one. But number two, let's say people that, you don't go to church, you don't believe in anything. That's fine. That's your situation. But I'm saying, guys, this is about freedom. Something we should at least unite is about freedom. They will try to use now a type of divisions against each other. For example, really believe that they're manipulating the Muslims and they're bringing them here with this aspect to create this sort of Balkanization like they already did in Europe and many other parts of the world, to create this chaos, because after all they want chaos. The Illuminati or these elites who controls the government, they have this slogan, and the slogan is order out of chaos. So they will use religious groups to destroy each other. And I really believe this is a fact. Now we'll see what the Muslims, they are being pretty much used like the foot soldiers of destroying Christianity around the world. And we know very well this is a fact. This is not a conspiracy anymore. Groups like ISIS, they were founded by the Obama administration with a part of Congress. I mean, this is now another reality that unfortunately many Americans don't want to face. We've been aiding the same enemies that supposed we are fighting. So that's the fact. And the Christianity is always at the bottom line. They've been the one that they will pay the consequences at the end, because we know very well there is no compatibility. And I'm not saying this because I have any type of agenda, but this is reading from their book. If you are not a Muslim, you cannot be compatible with any other religion. That's a fact. So anyway, but my point is it's time to stand up, because I really believe, as you said, otherwise we're going to let our next generation to face this sad reality, and I don't know if they have enough knowledge to even understand what they're going to face. Now, Pastor Mansfield, I want to ask you another thing. Did you ever heard about, talking about global government at the United Nations, for example, David Spangler, Director of Planetary Initiative of the United Nations, he came out with this statement, as official statement. Everybody can Google it. No one will enter the New World Order unless he or she will make a pledge to worship Lucifer. No one will enter the New Age unless he will take a Luciferian initiation. This is one of the top dogs, or top devils, I want to call them, because I don't want to insult the dogs, at the United Nations, the same global government that we are financing, that the last, at least since 1950, since the Korean War, we've been fighting for, because the first real new war that is not a war was the Korea War under the United Nations, and from then we always fought under the direction of the United Nations. The last constitutional war was World War II, so from then we are pretty much now a puppets of the United Nations. And these people, they are admitting it. We need to worship Lucifer. Did you ever heard about this bastard, David Spangler?
Yeah, and that's something the UN has been touting for just about ever. I remember back in school when I was young, the UN was getting a lot of programs into the public school system, UNICEF, UNESCO, raising funds at Halloween for whatever. We began to look into, I was just a teenager, we began to look into the UN. Their one world idea, it was interesting at the time. Everybody that I knew was against the UN because they liked the sovereignty of their country. They saw the UN as erasing the borders. The UN has moved into a very dangerous area with this type of individual understatements. they're not just wiping out geographical boundaries, they're trying to wipe out people groups.
Yeah.
They're trying to amalgamate us all into one big, wide, worldwide happy, whatever kind of person they want us to be, but it's not. It's trampling the individual nations, the individual peoples, and they're doing that right here in the U.S. by the influx of. And I'm saying the UN because they're the main leaders behind this thing, not just Obama. It's everybody trying to bring in Muslims to this country. Just in our area, we have Somalians coming in, and they're now to the point where they're demanding their own sections, their rights, and they're going to influence the legislative branches of here in Ohio. Eventually, it's going to come down to that. But when you brought up earlier that you were saying for those who are not Christian. I stand along and fight alongside of those who are not Christians. We are united on a whole different front. We have the same values. We're the same people. We have a lot to lose, whether we're Christians or whether we're not. This is a time when we have to see the enemy for who the enemy is and what their target is. I was born in Kentucky, and I'm from the South, and I'm very sensitive to Southern ideals and goals. And the wholesale destruction of what's going on in the South is directed at one particular group, and it is white Christian Southerners. Mm-hmm. And when you bring that up, people automatically assume, that you're some kind of whatever they want to make us out to be. The sad truth is there. This is what they're saying. The UN is no less entrenched in that move than what's happening in our region. Worldwide, look at Europe. There's a wholesale invasion of Europe. It's not a simple thing to look at a map and see that the influx of Syrians who are by the tens, about hundreds of thousands fleeing north, they're going right past the countries that offer them nothing, right to the countries that offer them everything. And so it's just not going to happen. It's not going to happen in my time. It's not going to happen in my community. People are taking a stand with that. And when we talk about standing against folks, we say we're not going to mow down people in the streets. No, we have an inherent right to firearms. We don't want to see that happen, but that's what we have. We have an inherent right to our soil and to our country. We have an inherent right to our own people. We don't need to be turned into something that the UN or those who want to create this new world order that is not tenable. It's not going to happen that way.
Exactly. So, and I would like to remind something to our listeners. Many people say, I'm old, or, I have one leg, or I'm on the wheelchair, or I'm too fat, or I don't know. There's so much every one of us can do. And, we don't want to even, we want to try to avoid to get to the point of the physical confrontation. And what is the best way I learned, in my opinion, through my little journey into all this struggle? Especially since I came to America. The best way, first of all, if it's millions of us. These are people that use also the way to test the feedback of people. Sometimes just because you're silent, you are probably making more damage than everything else. If every one of us in your community, I don't care where you are, you start to use that phone or that email or even just the letter to the editor, that's so much ammunition. The First Amendment is our first sword, okay? The sword that we show him, we have a first and last name, we are here, and we tell you exactly where we stand on this topic. When they start to see everything that is wrong out there, from your city council corruption or to these, illegal aliens moving your neighbors without any due process, and on top you had to pay with your tax dollar, you want it or not. I remember when I came to America, I never expected the federal government or the tax dollars, American tax dollar, to give me anything. Now you see thousands of people flew by our own tax dollar just because they have the status of refugees, and we know it's a fraud. They are selling passport from Syria for $2,000, and by the law, truckloads. And by the way, 90% they are Muslims. This is the fact, and I don't care what you think about it, but this is not right. But more important, what is not right, that we are forced to pay for them. They are like $1,000 bonus just when they come here. What the heck? I came here, I didn't want anything from anybody, but why you had to pay for anybody else here? So anyway, there's so much wrong, but we're gonna start to stand up. If you start to have at least speak up, that would be the first thing. Then you say something very important. The second thing, we have a right here that nobody else is around the world, at least 99%. I did the research. Even in Switzerland, people think, Switzerland, no, that's not the right. It's still a government privilege. We have the right to keep and bear arms, okay, regardless where you live. I understand New York probably is more like Italy, but that's another story. But the point is when we moment that we have to face evil, all we have to do is stand up like at the Bundy's Ranch and show me that as human beings, we are not afraid. As Americans, we are not afraid, but we are not even victims. We're not going to be there and take it in our face. We are not going to be the one to shoot the first round. As I remember Captain Parker said, on the Greens in 1775, it was Lexington, I guess. He said, I'm just paraphrasing it now with my accent, don't shoot. But if they want a war and they shoot first, they're going to have a war here. Something like that. The bottom line, we're not going to shoot for first. But I tell you, if they start to shoot at me and my fellow Americans, I'm not going to just be like Gandhi. I'm not going to take it all, okay? I'm going to defend myself. I'm going to defend my freedom. I'm going to defend my family. And I'll defend this republic. So they know that. So the best way to show to a bully that you are not a victim is to not be afraid and have enough tools and resources to say, we are not just unarmed little worms here. So it's very important that we start to activate speaking up, at least, even just a little radio show like this one. My name is luca-zanna. I'm here. I know that Homeland Security watch my website every week. I couldn't care less. I'm going to be dead anyway, with or without you. Okay? At least if I'll die with some honor, with some dignity, that I wasn't cowardly in front of you, wanna-be tyrants, Lucifer worshiper. That's what they are. All right. I got everything. I got my rent. It's up.
It's a very good one, too.
Now, listen, I want to ask you something to you. I'm sure you heard, you're very active in also following the news. I am also your Facebook friend. I see your post. The Department of Injustice, as I call it, invites now the United Nations in our U.S. cities to make us safer. The newest act of tyranny that, for me, really shows that they are coming after us. This is no more just on the air. This is coming now to a very pragmatic fact. On September 29th of 2015, the United Nations and the United States Department of Justice announced the creation of a new program designed to help local communities combat violent extremism, called the Strong Cities Network, CSN. A plan calls for systematic efforts to share experiences, pool resources, and build a community of cities to inspire local action on global scale. What do you think about this? This is another sign that they're really coming for us?
Well, absolutely. When we start putting in, we start allocating funds, allocating property to do that. Yeah, there's no question. When we see these things happening, Jesus was telling his disciples, when you see these things occur, then know it's the time is coming. Well, that applies to this too. There is no question. People got all up in arms when they found out the NSA was spying on us, but they've gotten over that now. We hear things like we just did last week when they said, I could live with the Australian principle of regulating firearms. They have no idea what that meant. When I heard it, I about died, from Hillary and Barack Obama, and others are now saying it when we realize exactly what that means. To establish something like this is frightening because that gives them the power to actually do that. These things have been around for quite some time. When you and I talked about the clergy response teams, and I told you that started with me in 2006. They were actually doing the work in 2005 after Katrina and gun confiscation and pastors. The things were put in place then, and we have to realize it's been 9 years since I discovered this and blew the whistle on that. What we have now is the DHS training facility in Anniston, Alabama. It is full-blown, where sheriff's departments are sending deputies for training. They're coming back into their counties and our communities, implementing the very things that we thought were the worst things on earth. Now it's there in our faces, just like this departmental development in September. It's right here in our backyard.
Yes,
it's right in our faces. When a police officer can pull you over, type in their computer your driver's license, and pretty much get everything down to your blood type.
Wow. Wow.
That is frightening to know. It is for that officer's protection, and that's what people say. Well, he has to know who he's approaching when he approaches the car. I've got some bad news for law enforcement. Even a good guy, can take a stand that may be right or wrong. Just because it passes the computer check doesn't mean everything's good. It's what it's being used for now is the most frightening thing. The oppression of those who stand for the First and Second Amendment rights. I'm more concerned about seeing the Fourth Amendment being taken away.
Oh, it's already gone. It's gone. The Fourth Amendment with the Patriot Act is gone.
Yes. It's not there any longer. It's not even due process any longer. It's not a court order. It's what we make it to be.
Exactly.
We started out the conversation today talking about how the laws had changed. People accept that at carte blanche. There is no law in America that we have to bake a cake. The Supreme Court made a ruling, and we're just seeing it as abject law. We can't see ourselves going up against it. The financial cost of going up against the Department of Justice, and that's who went after these people. There's no way that we can do this. So they don't need a law any longer. All they need is a ruling from the Supreme Court, and the rule by tyranny, by saying that we have the guns and you don't, and you're going to pay or we're going to fine you or jail you. That's very oppressive, and people are afraid of that. Threaten a person's job and they'll back down, and they won't make that complaint. Get on a radio program like this, some people wouldn't think of doing it because they have too much, quote, to lose. I don't understand that. That makes no sense to me. But there are people who will back down because of the threat that is there. So we're kind of a self-imposed tyranny today where we're afraid to do anything because we know what's out there. And so this new agency to be developed, we look at that and say, see, we can't say anything because, look, they'll come after us. Well, no, they've already won. They've already come after us if you're not going to do anything.
This is my point, guys, and this is coming from a point of view of a man, I was even born here, okay? And I never had that type of natural right to say, the Bill of Rights, but I thank God I had the chance to become one of you. But I tell you something. You can have all the Bill of Rights. We can have all the Bill of Rights we want. We can have all the Constitution, even written on gold paper, okay? If who's going to defend it? Who's going to stand for it? Not because we have a Declaration of Independence that says what it says or the Bill of Rights that means that this is going to be the way it is. No. This is going to slip away in front of us like we are a bunch of children and we have the bullies out there. Hey, give me that apple. And you give it to him. No, it's our duty to say, you know what, screw you. This is my apple, and I'm going to punch you in the face. I don't care if you're bigger than me. I'm going to defend my apple, okay? I'm not going to be a little baby and crying over it, or just ignore the reality that you're a bully. No, it is our duty, because you know what, we owe it to us. We know it to the people who came before us, and they fought and died and gave everything they had, for God's sake. Sorry if I mentioned God. And then also, the people that will come after us, they will going to ask us. And it's trying to visualize. Sometimes, I really have these visions. I'm on my bed, if I'm going to make it to die on my bed, and I'm going to look back past my life, and if I had a child, he's going to ask me, Dad, what did you do for me? What have you tried to do to stop all this nightmare that I'm living in? You know what? I don't know what I'm going to tell you, but I'll tell you one thing. I'll try everything I could, regardless the X. I will try everything I could, and every drop of my blood, I'll try to do it. That's what I'm going to tell you. At least I tried. But that's what we should face, every one of us. Visualize, you're going to be dead no matter what. Don't get too attached to these bodies because it's just a transition, okay? We're just flesh and bones. What is inside is important. They can kill you, that's fine. Guess what? You're going to die anyway one day, or because of the vaccines, or because of your heart attack, or the cancer, or because you're going to be hit by a rock. Doesn't matter. Okay, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't. And you're exactly right. Everybody uses the phrase, I would rather, die standing than on my knees. There are a lot of folks who say that but don't mean that because they're not doing anything. I love getting on Facebook and checking for messages and seeing what's going on, but I'm afraid that's where a lot of involvement stops. Someone posts something on Facebook, like you said, you read some of the things I post. Mm-hmm. And I read yours as well. And we'll read something that says, yeah, this is great. So we'll hit the little like button, some of us will take it to heart and say, this is what I need to do. Others will look at that like and go, I've done my part. I agree. And I don't know if that's caused people to take a lax attitude, but you find that in the church. I don't know if you know this, and it's a well-known thing among pastors and church leaders, that usually less than 2% of the church population will actually do anything. So you've got 100 people. You're going to get maybe you're going to get 2 or 3 people in your church actually get out and do something, maybe 10 or 12, who will follow through with. You have to go and provide for someone, or you have to protect someone, or stand up against evil. The majority of people won't. The majority of people will just not do it. And so you've got a church situation where a very small minority are actually doing anything, and the others are there to look. Now, that's not all churches. I could name dozens of churches that are standing firm. But on issues like this, where we make statements like, if I don't do it, my children and grandchildren will have to face it, there are people who will stand for that, but there are so many who say, well, I fought, I'm old, it's time for me to give up. Like you said, they got one leg in the wheelchair kind of thing. There are people who say they're old and they really have no fight left. That is criminal. That's a criminal mind. That's one who says that, I have a granddaughter who is going to be a year old at some point. She's just a baby. And my son and daughter-in-law are expecting their second child in January. I'm not going to look at those two and tell them these little babies are going to have to live under a system that I don't like because I'm just too old to do anything about it. That's a criminal mind right there. I'm doing this for my children. One of the phrases that I use, that many of us use in an organization I run with, is that this is why we fight. We'll post a picture on Facebook of a child or grandchild and we'll say, this is why we fight. This is why we stand firm.
Exactly.
Because, we don't do it for any other reason. It's not for a principle. You can die all day long for principles, but we're talking about flesh and blood, soil, kith and kin. We can't go beyond the idea that this is just an ideology. We're fighting for our very birthright, and we're fighting for those who will come up behind us. If we don't, the battle will be theirs, and we can't do that to them.
And guys out there, if any one of you say, this is sound like some sort of a church talk. No, this is not about church or about Christianity. No. This is about freedom. We're talking about freedom, okay? Regardless the religious belief that you have. Every human being has rights, no privileges from the government. That's what we're talking about. We go back to the basic, the Bill of Rights, something that should unite us, regardless where you're coming from, regardless your accent, regardless, the type of religious background. If we believe in the Bill of Rights, that will be the first thing that's going to, and in the Declaration of Independence, that will be the first thing that's going to unite us as Americans. And then we can face this monstrosity called global government that, unfortunately, first of all, this is exactly the opposite of what we have here as Americans in our individual rights. Global government, you're a subject. You're a global subject. That's the bottom line. Not only you're a subject, but you don't even have to. You don't have the right to vote for these people that they are unelected and they will rule over you. And I give you an example. People think all this is like a mambo jumbo that comes out of nothing. I gave you the example, Europe. The European community, when I left Italy, was 1998. 2 years before was officially created, completely unified. And you know what? 2000, they started already before that. They started under these treaties that they honor, the European treaties about commerce and trade. Guess what? Now, every aspect of your life, talking about even the food that you can eat or what you can produce. I'll give you an example, very specific example. I knew this person in person, a little farmer out of Rome. He had like a small farm with cows, okay? And when the European community kicked in, they told him, by the way, you have now a quota how much milk you can produce. But wait a second, I am here, I'm an Italian person, I want to produce as much milk I can sell. It's my business. Guess what? 1 month later, after the different type of, ladders and stuff, guess what? Called SWAT team. Okay, SWAT team. And now they have the international European police, because many times now start to happen that the Italian police may not follow this anymore, these orders. They have the the European police. Okay, they will enforce everything. Another example, small stupid things, but they are not stupid. The European community decided, for example, what type of mussels, you know, in Italy there is a plate, a dish. I like it very much. It's a dish with clams, a pasta with clams, okay? You know, the clams, the little things in the water, you know, clams. I love clams. I love spaghetti with clams. Now, in Italy, they told them, the European community told, what type of size of clams you can fish. And it's outlaw. If you fish a clam that is smaller than that type of inch, you can go to jail. I mean, think about that. This is an example of this global tyranny. They can tell you what you can eat, you know, how much food you can grow, how much you can sell. This is global socialism / Nazism. That is the same, national socialism. The only thing, these people, they don't believe in nations. They are global socialism. That's what it is. Enforced with power, of course. So we are facing this. America, it's next. It's here. And I wanted to bring you back, you know, before we go, to something that normally I don't do on the air, and I feel a little bad now, because I think really we need to you know, even I believe, you know, my Christianity is my personal belief. I keep it for myself, and I'm not in condition to share it that much, because, you know, I'm just a regular sinner. I don't have the skills to say too much. I just try to learn for myself. But in this moment, I believe, even just from a point of view of an almost scientific point of view, there is Matthew 24:3, okay? On the King James Version, if you want. There is a point that I really reading this part. I don't know if you have a copy in front of you, but there is a point that, you know, is something that really just reading this, it brings us back to the reality that we are facing right now. And there are a lot of things that I would like to just read this part. And if you don't have I didn't tell you this, my fault. If you don't have in front of you the Bible in front of you, the Matthew, I can read it even with my accent. I wish you could do it. You have a copy in front of you, or want me to get it? I'll do it.
I have a copy of the Bible right in front of me. It's not a King James version.
That's
I have
fine.
One that I grab off the table, but it's
that's
close
fine.
enough.
Whatever. Just because I have King James 24:3. Okay, and the point is going back to the signs that we are living really in very special times for humanity. And I really believe that all the things that are happening right now, they were predicted in prophecies. And even if you're not a Christian, please read, just listen, and then, you know, maybe whatever. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but at least listen with a scientific point of view. Please, Pastor Mansfield, read this part of the Bible so at least we can piss off somebody out there. Go ahead.
Yeah, so you just want the third verse, correct?
Yeah, whatever I was thinking about, even let's start from, you know, the part, we have a few minutes.
Okay.
For many shall come in my name, saying I'm the Christ, and shall deceive. Let's start from there. You know?
Okay, very good. I'll just read through those.
Okay.
And it's pretty obvious.
Excuse me, let's start from that. And what shall be the signs of thy coming?
Yeah, exactly.
Let people understand which context we are. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, okay. It was Jesus speaking to his disciples. He says, as he was sitting on the Mount of Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, quote, tell us when these things will happen. What will be the sign of your coming and or of the end of the age? And Jesus answered and said to them, see to it that no one misleads you, for many will come in my name, saying, I am the Christ, and will mislead many. You will be hearing of wars and rumors of wars. See that you are not frightened, for those things must take place, but that is not yet the end. For nation will rise up against nation, kingdom against kingdoms, and in various places there will be famines and earthquakes. But all these things are merely the beginning of birth pangs. I think one of the most scarier things is the next couple of verses, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course. Go ahead, please.
He says, then they will deliver you to tribulation and will kill you, and you will be hated by all the nations because of my name. And at that time, many will fall away, will betray one another, hate one another. And then he goes on to say many false prophets will come. You know, if I can comment briefly, it's hard for a pastor to go briefly on this.
Go ahead.
They were looking for something that they could point to and say these are the end times. And the first thing Jesus warns them is there'll be false Christ. Paul talks about the very same thing that he says in the latter days. There'll be fake religions. There'll be people claiming that there's power from God. It's not from God. You mentioned the UN, and the response there was clearly they're setting up a false religious system. Many people reject religion, but the political end of religion by the UN is going to be forced upon people. And they'll have their false Christ. They have a name for him. His name is Lucifer. They have it coming. And when Jesus says that they'll deliver you up and kill you, and they'll do it in His name, we're seeing that quite clearly today with a lot of infighting among religious people, Christians particularly, saying that they're for these things, when their Orthodox religion from Scripture clearly teaches against those things. And those of us who hold to a traditionalist view, an Orthodox view, we're seen as crazy people. And so I believe what it says here is true. In the end times, in the last times, and they pretty much started the second Jesus stepped out of the tomb, so we can't look for some long-term future. We're in dire straits now. We're seeing a lot of things fulfilled from day one after the resurrection. This is the world that we live in. This is the world that we've inherited, but it's even coming harder and tougher and stronger these days. And so we're seeing persecution arise, not just against Christians, but against those who stand firm on truth, who fight against tyranny, who stand up for liberty and, like you said, freedom. We're being hammered by the very people who should know better. This is what Jesus meant when he said another place in John, they'll drag you out of the religious places. He called them synagogues, and they'll kill you, and they'll say they're doing it in the name of God, doing it to serve God. And what do we see today?
Which God? That's the problem.
Yeah, exactly. Which God? We see people claiming a name that is not the name. We see churches that are not churches, priests that are not priests. We see people who are not religious practicing some form of religion because they have a name of their own God. Mm-hmm. I don't fault people for being what they want to be, but when they come against me and yours, there's a problem.
Yeah, exactly. This is the point. Guys, I always say I respect every religion that respects my beliefs. That's the point, and unfortunately, I can read, guys, I read everything. I read from the Buddhist scriptures or some scripts or Indians, whatever, New Age, and I have a problem. When I start to find a book that exactly says that all the non-believer and the infidels must be chopped their head, or they must pay a fine, or they must convert, I have a big problem with that. And that's my bottom line, because this is your book, the saying that. I didn't say that. So now, listen, this is pretty much the hour I wanted to talk about today, guys. The bottom line, we are here, we're talking about materialistic things, or at least physical things happening in this dimension. We're talking about laws, new legislations and bad things happening like, corruption and things like that. But at the end, I really believe the biggest weapon, if I can leave you with one message, me as a luca-zanna, as a person, that I found out in this journey, is to find your faith. That's the bottom line. I say I'm not perfect. I have a lot of things I need to work on as a human being. But if I didn't have faith, I couldn't be here, Pastor. I tell you, sometimes I think, why am I doing this? Why am I wasting my time? Try to talk to a microphone. Maybe, people may laugh at me or whatever. They think I'm crazy. Or maybe just I can do much better things. I can take care of my family. I can make money or whatever.
Sure.
I can keep my mouth shut, and maybe, I'm going to be the last one to be put on that wall. Okay. But I realize that every time I think that, I see, even if I can change, even if I don't want to change, I would like to give you the opportunity to change yourself, to find your way, to find the truth yourself. And I had a lot of people that they wrote me, and they at least they make me feel like I'm doing something, that I'm trying to do my little part. That's all I can say. I want to give you the floor, the last 2 minutes, Pastor, whatever you want to say. Pastor Walt-Mansfield, go ahead.
Wow. In 2 minutes. You are most encouraging, and I think that's what I want you to continue in. I like to say that for you, because there are people who tune in for you just for that reason, and they follow you on Facebook just for that reason. And I read some of their comments. You are providing a service, and I really appreciate it when you say, I am just a sinner, and I'm a big sinner. In the New Testament, Paul said he was the chief of sinners, but he wrote most of the New Testament. And you think, how can it happen? God can use absolutely anybody to do what he needs to get done. I mean, if he can do and work with me, Walt-Mansfield, that is an accomplishment. It's a very humbling experience. But you're right. We need to point out to people that there is a way to change. There is a way to get on board with what's going on, and it's not going to be through politics. It's going to be being true to yourself, because once you find out what it is you're supposed to be doing, do it. Do what you're supposed to be doing. Get out of your comfort zone. People say it's a lot more than that. It's living life to its fullest. We need to understand that, and once we get past the idea that we're here just to eat, sleep, and go to work, that we're here for a reason, then something can change. I'm very pessimistic on many counts. I don't think things are going to change for the good, not only anytime soon, but if the course of action isn't taken, if direction isn't changed, there's going to be literally hell to pay on this planet. And I think that is something that is sounds pessimistic, but it causes people to take a stand. It causes people to come together. And that's what we need to do. So that's pretty much what I'm going to wrap it up with for you, if that's okay.
Perfect. I want to thank you again. And I want to thank you, listeners. If we agree, don't care. All I care that you have an open mind. To at least understand that sometimes they try to divide us in groups, to put us against each other, but we need to look beyond that. We need to look really who is behind the curtains, because that's the real controllers that they are having these plans for humanity to enslave us all. It's not going to be about the Democrats winning or the Republicans winning. It's going to be all humanity, all Americans. We're all going to lose if we don't stand up together and we stick for the principles of freedom and pretty much declare in the Bill of Rights, in our Declaration of Independence, and at that point, we respect each other. Now, I want to say something also to my listeners. Guys, I'm here intentionally. I try to avoid even to get commercial sponsors, because otherwise I would be many times having to say things that I'm limited in what I can say. I'm here, I can say whatever I want, talk about everything I want, because I have your support. And there is a way to support the show. It's very simple. You can go to my website, www.zanna.us, and go there, and don't do like Homeland Security that never buy anything. You can go there and at least download any of my songs, just one song for 99 cents. I wrote more than 100 songs when I came to America. Okay, I produce and publish them, and they're available for sale through different outlets. But you can get them through my website, 99 cents. Doing so, not only you get a beautiful song, hopefully you like it, but also you help the show to stay alive. Thank you very much. God's willing, I'll talk to you next Sunday. Thank you, Pastor Mansfield.
Amen.
God bless you.
The shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Your rod and staff, they comfort